Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for your patience this morning. We have elected to change to a different system since our system that we typically use for our board meetings is still not available. Unfortunately, it's crashing, so during today's meeting, you're not going to see a ribbon across the bottom of the screen that will reflect the topic that is being addressed. And we're only going to have one center camera today, so we're not going to get to change around for everybody who will be speaking. But with that, we are going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. So on behalf of the Marion County Commission, I do thank you all for joining us. Today is Tuesday, April the 16th, 2019. We're in the Marion County Auditorium Chambers located at 601 Southeast 25th Avenue in Ocala, Florida. This is our regularly scheduled Board of County Commissions meeting. So if you'll stand with me, Commissioner Gold is going to lead us in our invocation and pledge of allegiance. I am going to call for a moment of silence due to one of our assistant county administrators' parents. His father passed just recently. So for a moment of silence, and then Commissioner Gold will take it from there. And this is on behalf of Angel Russo's father.
Lord, thank you for this day and thank you for this country we live in. Thank you for allowing us to meet here and speak freely and to join together to meet and talk about our issues. Please bless those who protect us both far and abroad. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. And now, Madam Clerk, we'll have roll call, please.
Yes, ma'am. Chairman Stone.
Here.
Vice Chairman Moore.
Here.
Commissioner Bryant.
Here.
Commissioner Gold.
Here.
Commissioner Zalek.
Here.
Very good. I'll go ahead and remind us all that we are meeting in our auditorium, and to encourage participation, I'll ask that everyone please be respectful of those that are speaking. If you do have an electronic device with you this morning, I ask that you silence it or turn it off. If you need to have any sort of a conversation with anyone who is in the auditorium or on a device, please take your conversation out into the foyer. You'll still be able to hear the meeting, and we won't be able to hear you. And also, once you do come down to speak with the county commissioners, when you come to the podium, I'll ask that you please address only the commissioners and keep your comments to 2 minutes unless you've already signed up in advance, and then you will have 5 minutes for a presentation. There are two that may go a little bit longer, and we're aware of that this morning. Also, the general public items, public hearings, and consent agenda can be found on our website, which is www.marioncountyfl.org. Our agendas are loaded the Friday before each board meeting, and you just click on the agenda from the home page, and then you can download the agenda package as well as any backup documentation. Anyone who requires any accommodations due to a disability or a physical impairment should contact Marion County Administration at 352-438-2300 at least 2 days before a meeting. The Marion County Clerk of Court keeps the official minutes and the audio recordings of our meetings. To request a copy of these materials, you can contact the clerk's office at 352-671-5622. We do stream our video and most other meetings that we have online live through the county's YouTube site, YouTube page. And these recordings are archived online after the meetings, but DVDs can be requested by contacting the Marion County Administration at 352-438-2300. So now that we've got that out, I will give us our announcements. And this afternoon, well, excuse me, immediately following this morning's meeting, there will be a closed meeting pursuant to Florida Statute 286.011, Section 8, regarding a notice of claim received on behalf of the estate of Catherine Kropp. And then today at 2 p.m., we will have our zoning and planning portion of this meeting, and that will take place here in the auditorium. On April the 23rd at 4 p.m., here in our auditorium, the Ocala-Marion County Transportation and Planning Organization will be meeting. And then on April the 7th at 9 a.m., we will have our first regularly scheduled meeting of the month of May here. And then on May the 7th at 10 a.m., we will also have a public hearing to consider an ordinance to amend Chapter 4 of the Marion County Code relating to animal control and enforcement. So those are all of our announcements this morning. I'll now take a motion for us to discuss our proclamations and presentations.
So moved, and to include the proclamation for the National Day of Prayer.
So we've got a motion by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Zalek, and we are including a proclamation that was not addressed on our agenda, and that is for our National Day of Prayer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. So now we'll go around. We'll start off with our first presentation, and that is going to be by Mr. Rusty Skinner. And this presentation is the 2018 Annual Report from Career Source, Citrus, Levy, Marion County. And Rusty Skinner, the CEO, will be presenting that. And I believe we have a handout. So good morning, Mr. Skinner.
Good morning, Commissioner. Good morning, Commissioners. I won't take a lot of time. We have provided y'all some of the information in advance, but I will just try to provide some general stuff. Obviously, with our unemployment rate, we've seen traffic of adult traffic in terms of our career centers drop, which is a good sign. What we've been concentrating on for the past couple of years essentially has been how do we work with our school districts, especially here in Marion County, to connect young people who are graduating with the workforce. We're continuing that this year. We've been having a number of successful events, career expos, as well as some direct contact with the school districts and developing programs. Most importantly, and certainly the Commission deserves thanks to this, the CDL program, which the CEP and Manufacturers Association and Career Source worked on to get started at MTC. That's been quite successful so far, and we thank the Commission for the support in that. With our traffic going down, we've also been looking at how do we begin to work with people who are coming in who are missing some of the key essential skills that might allow them to get their foot in the door. This applies to both young people as well as adults. Recently, we've acquired a system, which is an online system, which has over 700 courses. It's being used in the state of Indiana. It's used over at Pensacola State College. And it provides at least a couple of avenues for people to gain some skills so that they may either pursue the career at one of our institutions of higher education, or that they have a basic skill which allows them to at least be considered for a job. We're just in the process of getting that ramped up, and we hope to have that ramped up by the end of this month. Where we're operational. We also have one business in town that's testing it for us to determine whether they can be using it for upskilling their current employees. We're very optimistic about that. I'll stop, and I know y'all have a busy agenda, and if there's any questions about anything, I'll be glad to answer.
Board, do we have any questions? Well, Mr. Skinner, I would say that you serve a vast variety of people within our community and helping them find jobs and become economically stable. We appreciate what you do. Commissioner Bryant?
I do have one question. So we've heard from employers in the past that have been looking to come into our community that the labor force that they were looking for, there was a bit of a shortage in our area. How are we doing as far as addressing that?
Well, we work on two things. First of all, we have about 48% of our residents who leave the county every day to go to work. So that's a key effort there, is to try to work to entice those residents to look for the jobs that are coming available. And some of the larger employers, we've had some success with that through promotions. In terms of upskilling or providing the skills, what we're looking for this new program is called 180 Skills, and we feel that will give us a tool. It's online, so a person who has marginal skills or no skills in an area can gain some skills in that. It's used for apprenticeship programs, as I say, for the Pensacola State College and in Indiana. A lot of them are using it to really do, I guess best way to say is a hands-on career awareness. So we're trying to find tools that we can help to upskill the employees who don't have skills. And we're also, for the folks who move out of the area, the commuting pattern generally for today's workforce is an hour or an hour and a half. So when we're trying to find jobs, we certainly concentrate on those residents of Marion County, of Citrus County, and Levy County, because those are the people we're asked to serve. But we also reach out to adjoining counties to see if there's anybody in those who would be interested in coming to work for an employer here. I mean, we found most employers want a good body to work. They don't care where they reside. So we do both of those things. We've worked with the college to try to connect the people that are coming into the programs they have.
So we've been able to fill the void.
Pardon me?
We've been able to fill the void for those
Well, we're working on
employers
that.
that.
We're working on that. It's not, it's not a process where you snap your fingers. A lot of it is making sure we have the skills, which is one of the reasons why we're excited about this 180 Skills. With 700 different courses, we feel that it will allow us to focus on what skills the employers need and really begin to work with people who are looking for a job that can't find them because of lack of skills. And anyway.
Very good. Thank you, Rusty.
Well, we appreciate you being with us this morning. And again, for those that may be listening that are looking for a job, even though the unemployment rate is oh so low, and
That's
we're
right.
grateful, help can be found at the Career Source Citrus Levy Marion location, with resume writing assistance, as well as various networking events and job fairs and workshops and career counseling. And this is offered at no cost
Yes,
to
ma'am.
people who are looking for that assistance.
Thank you.
So thank you,
At
Mr. Skinner.
2703 Northeast 14th Street.
Yeah, go ahead, say it again, say it again.
2703 Northeast 14th Street is our key career center here in Marion County. So,
Thank you
Thank
again, Mr. Skinner.
thank you. Thank you, Ken.
Yes, sir. Okay, so with that, we are now ready for our proclamations, and in order, it will be Commissioner Zalek, Commissioner Bryant, Commissioner Gold, and Commissioner Moore. God bless you. Thank you. Bless you.
Goodness.
Oh, sure. It has been requested that we change our order, and we're going to go ahead and do our National Day of Prayer proclamation first, and Commissioner Moore is going to deliver that. So if we could please have those that are in the audience on behalf of the National Day of Prayer, please come forward. We will welcome you now. Do you have the microphone? Are you ready to when we're ready?
It's working.
Is on? And we have Miss P.G. Schaefer, who is a phenomenal person. Anyway, among other things. Well, I would brag on you a little bit, but Miss P.G.
Never done this before, y'all.
She is responsible for saving so many lives in Marion County, but that's her job as a nurse. What was it? Nurse, yes. Yeah, I'm forgetting. She's got some fancier title, but nurse, I guess, fits. But she saved a lot of people's lives, so wonderful person. In addition to National Day of Prayer, which I'm privileged to get to read. The joys of age. Anyway, the
proclamation states, whereas prayer to the Almighty God is regarded by millions as the most important utterance of mankind for its benefit, and whereas our nation was founded by single-minded men and women seeking wisdom and guidance through prayer to the God who has ears to hear, and whereas prayer has aided us in all times where support and guidance was needed, and whereas it is fitting we should give thanks for freedom and prosperity which our nation and state enjoys, to pray and for the continued guidance and comfort which God has graciously bestowed upon this nation since its inception. And whereas the National Day of Prayer is a time set aside for Americans to pray to their Heavenly Father to reaffirm the spiritual principles upon which our nation was founded. Whereas the state of Florida and the United States of America will benefit from prayer and its faithful and prayerful residents. And whereas this year's theme is Love One Another, how appropriate, very needed, anyway, was chosen to emphasize the importance of putting our trust in that which is worthy, our total confidence in the Holy Word of God, we are given these words, love one another just as I have loved you, which is out of John 13:34. And whereas across our land on May 2nd, Americans will unite at specific times in prayer for our nation and state to acknowledge our dependence on God and to give thanks for the many blessings our country has received from Him, to recognize our need for personal and corporate renewal and moral values, and to vote God's blessings upon our leaders. Now, therefore, the Board of County Commissioners of Marion County, Florida, by virtue of the authority vested in us, do hereby proclaim that the 2nd of May, 2019, be known as National Day of Prayer, signed by all 5 county commissioners and attested to by David Elsperman, Clerk of Courts. And Ms. PG, would you like to say some things about what's going on downtown on the square?
On Thursday, May 2nd, there will be hourly prayers. There'll be tents that we'll be able to go into that are going to be manned for prayer. If you have need of prayer, desire to pray for this country, for our local, state, and federal government, for these wonderful people who serve us so diligently in every capacity, who have a heart for service, come down to the square beginning at 8 a.m. It will go through until 8 p.m. And we have groups, many of them youth from some of our schools are going to be coming down to pray and lead us in praise and worship and intersperse with prayer for these fine people and the rest of our leaders locally, in our state, and in our federal government. So y'all come.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. Commissioner Zalek.
All right. So those that are here for the Community Action Month, come on down. No? All right. If not, I'll pass it on.
I was going to say, yeah, we'll just approve it and it'll be good. Okay, next we have Commissioner Bryant, who is going to be recognizing Abate.
Okay, and I see lots of folks from Abate here, so come on up. Good morning.
Morning, Precious.
I wish he shows up.
Well.
Hey. I saw them at Marion County, and I'm like, where's Bridget? Good morning.
Y'all jam in here next to Kathy.
Hey, how are y'all doing today? All right. So, John, we'll get you over here. All right, we've got everybody here. So if you're not aware, it is our Motorcycle Awareness Month, and we're going to go into that. And just remember, always look twice. You may save a life. How's that one? All right, I've got that down. And I think we've talked about this before. I, for the first time in my life, got on the back of a motorcycle about a year and a half ago. And I can tell you that the entire time that I was back there, all I could think of was, I hope the person in back of us is watching and not on their phone or anything else. So I get it, and always try to make sure that I am being aware of my surroundings. So with that, we have a proclamation by the Board of County Commissioners of Marion County, Florida. Whereas motorcycle riding is a popular form of recreation and transportation for thousands of people in Marion County, and Florida's mild climate and scenic roadways make motorcycle riding an enjoyable experience throughout the year. And whereas Marion County's growing population, seasonal residents, and travelers using Marion County roadways make motorcycle safety an important issue for all drivers, and the safe operation of a motorcycle requires the use of special skills developed through a combination of training and experience, the use of good judgment, and a thorough knowledge of traffic laws and licensing requirements. And whereas motorcycling can be an enjoyable activity when safety is of paramount consideration and all regulations are observed. And whereas there were 616,952 motorcycles registered in Florida, with 13,860 in Marion County as of February 1st, 2019. And whereas to prevent injuries and deaths on roadways, it is important for motorcyclists and motorists to always be vigilant in their efforts to share the roadway and ensure safety for everyone. And whereas motorcycle organizations, clubs, dealerships, groups, and highway safety officials in our county are encouraged to join the Florida Rider Motorcycle Safety Program, ABATE of Florida Incorporated, and all motorcyclists in actively promoting safe operation, increased rider training, improved licensing agreements, and motorist awareness. And whereas the Motorcycle Safety Foundation has designated the month of May as Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month, as recognized by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Governor of the state of Florida, to encourage other motor vehicle operators to be cautious and observe these smaller vehicles on Marion County streets and highways. Now, therefore, the Board of County Commissioners of Marion County, Florida, by virtue of the authority vested in us, do hereby proclaim that May 2019 be known as Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month, duly proclaimed this 16th day of April 2019, signed by all 5 county commissioners and attested to by David Ellsperman, clerk of the court. And I'm going to present this to John Malin, the president of ABATE, our local chapter. Correct. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to maybe say a few words about any activities that you might have going on for the month of May, or anything else that you might want to talk about. Okay.
Like you said, I'm John Malin. I'm the president of our local chapter, which is Forest Chapter of ABATE of Florida Incorporated. May is traditionally, around the world, the beginning of a riding season. Here in Florida, we ride all year round, so May is a time for us to just become more aware, make the public more aware of motorcycles on the highway, which is something we should do every month out of the year. As part of our program, we conduct a motorcycle safety awareness program, which I've given all the commissioners a copy of a brochure on. This program is presented to all drivers, targeted particularly to young drivers, but all drivers are welcome to attend. We're doing it this Saturday at the Marion County Library over next door here at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You're welcome to come out, hear how you can share the road with motorcycles more safely. I'm going to share a little piece of information from that program with you, let you know some of what you're going to hear about distracted driving. Distracted driving can be one of 3 things, or more than one of those 3. One of those distractions, you take your hands or feet off the controls of the vehicle. The other type of distracted driving, you take your eyes off the road. And the third type, you take your mind off the road. There's a distraction called texting and driving. That requires all 3 of those, which makes texting and driving one of the most dangerous things you can do. We support legislation that would eliminate texting and driving, make it a primary offense on the roadways. We ask that the general public do the same. Texting and driving ranks right up there with drunk driving in our eyes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Malin. And I can tell you that this board has supported that legislation making texting and driving a primary offense. The dangers in that, we've all seen the devastation that it can cause, and don't think there's anybody in this room probably that doesn't understand how important it is to put that phone down when you're in your car. So, all right. With that said, would anybody else like to say anything? Okay. All right, wait, we're gonna get a picture. He's gonna come rearrange us. You're gonna have to get up. Come on. Here. Right over here.
You wanted me right here?
There you go.
Okay.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you.
See you, buddy. Be safe. Take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all have a good day.
It's a pretty day to go for a ride.
I
Oh, man, that's
know,
perfect, right?
right?
Oh, yeah. You're supposed to be riding.
Yesterday was beautiful.
We're gonna go to the city later on. Good.
Ah.
I could have got her.
Yeah. Yeah, we could have gotten you up there.
We'll make them stand at the
All right. Bring our telecommunicators down here, public safety communications. Chief Damien, the rest of the group there.
I think it's on. While they're coming down, I'll just say that I had the honor of being with this group on Saturday evening as they kicked off this very special week of recognition. And I just want to say they did an excellent job putting together a wonderful banquet and a meal that they all enjoyed with their friends and their family. So it's great to have y'all this morning.
I got to do 2 things now.
How are you again? Remind me at the end.
Great job.
All right. I know, everybody should.
Balance it out a little bit.
Today? Today?
Who's going to take it? Is it Chief taking it, or who you want to give it to? Because now you got to do this with you, sir. All right, today's proclamation. Whereas National Public Safety Telecommunications Week has been observed in the United States since 1981, and this week is designated as a time when citizens can thank public safety men and women who respond to emergency calls and dispatch emergency professionals and equipment during a time of crisis. Americans can show gratitude to 911 call takers, dispatchers, technicians that maintain the radios and emergency phone and computer systems, communication staff trainers, communication center personnel, and other public telecommunications staff across the country who work tirelessly, often behind the scenes to help during emergencies. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time, requiring fire, emergency medical services, or law enforcement, and whereas when an emergency occurs, these prompt response of firefighters, paramedic, and law enforcement is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas public safety emergency telecommunications communicators are the first and most critical contact to our citizens that our citizens have with emergency services, and public safety telecommunicators of Marion County have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas the services of public safety emergency telecommunicators is a silent service, and their duties are seldom observed by the public. And whereas each public safety emergency telecommunicator has exhibited compassion, understanding, professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year and continue to do so. Now, therefore, the Board of Marion County Commissioners, by virtue of the authority vested in us, do hereby proclaim the week of April 14th through 20th, 2019 as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our country, our county, and our citizens safe. Duly proclaimed the 16th day of April 2019, signed by all county commissioners, testified to by our clerk of the court, David Elsperman. And I must say that we a lot of times take that for granted, that when we call 911, and they're usually the people that we yell at or yell at later, get mad about. But I can say I'm looking at several people up here who, in my 30 years in public safety, have kept me straight, kept me out of trouble, but most importantly, made sure that I got home safe and saved my life on many occasions. So I thank you personally. Chief?
Commissioner, thank you.
Beat that.
That's going to be tough. That's going to be tough. Commissioners, thank you for this proclamation and taking some time this morning to recognize and honor the men and women that are public safety telecommunicators. They really are the first contact for many of our citizens most of the time in their time of crisis and need, and they're the first calm and reassuring voice that you hear while the emergency field units are responding to provide help. They do work tirelessly, and they do a lot of stuff behind the scenes and participate in a lot of fundraisers as well, and just really go above and beyond in providing services to the citizens of Marion County. And for that, I thank each and every one of you for what you do day in and day out for the citizens.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
Get over here. Somebody else.
No, I'd like the microphone.
I just had one more thing to say. I just wanted to personally thank each and every one of you for the job that you do on a daily basis. You're doing a great job. Chief Banna, we're excited about what you're doing over in our Public Safety Communications Department, and just continue the good work. We all know the job that you do, and you do your jobs well, and we're just extremely grateful that we have you in those positions. So thank you.
Where are we going, Jeff?
Just stand here in the center. And then when we get you to the center, well, we're gonna do 2 rows. You guys just push over a little bit. Then just try to shift a little bit more this direction. I am. Sure. All right, 3, 2, 1. Hold on. 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Thank you all again. Lovely afternoon. You too. Thank you. You too.
Chandler. Thank you, ma'am.
What you do all the time. Thank you again.
Sir.
Great. Okay. I think we have hit them all besides service awards. So let's see. Robin. Robin's going to come forward, and we have some service awards that we're going to be recognizing some of our wonderful teammates with this morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Robin Fraze, Human Resources Manager, filling in for Amanda. Today, we would like to recognize employees who have provided dedicated service of 15 years or more as employees of Marion County. First up, Lance Long in Fire Rescue with 15 years of service. Lance was hired in 2004 with Emergency Medical Services Alliance, or EMSA, and transferred to Marion County Fire Rescue in 2008 when the county acquired the ambulance service. He started as a paramedic and then promoted to a firefighter 1 and is currently serving as a lieutenant. Tammy McKean, oh, do I need to wait? What do you, okay.
Jeff, you you gonna get individuals as we know?
Yeah, we can do individuals.
Okay. Okay, and I'll keep reading. Tammy McCann in Human Resources with 15 years of service. Tammy joined the county in 2004 as a Staff Assistant 3 in Fire Rescue, was promoted to various roles, including Administrative Staff Assistant, Medical Billing Specialist 2, and then to her current position of HR Risk and Benefits Administrative Support Specialist. Emily Merritt in Public Safety Communication with 15 years of service. Emily was hired in 2004 with Marion County Sheriff's Department and transferred to Marion County Public Safety Communication in 2011, where she currently serves as an emergency telecommunicator supervisor.
Congratulations.
Now we're going to recognize employees with 20 years or more of service. Doris Haas in our public library with 20 years of service. Doris was hired in 1999 as a branch assistant, was promoted to library assistant, then to her current position of public services assistant in 2003. Next up is Wayne Noonan in our facilities management with 20 years of service. Wayne was hired in 1999 as a building maintenance technician 2, was promoted to various roles including facilities trade technician 1 through 4, chief of trades, and senior environmental supervisor, then to his current position of building maintenance supervisor. Next up is Stanley Taylor in Office of County Engineer with 20 years of service. Stanley was hired in 1999 as a traffic signal technician 2, was promoted to various roles including traffic signal technician 2 and traffic signal supervisor, then to his current position of traffic ATMS signal supervisor in 2015.
So Tracy, he can answer the questions I was asking yesterday?
We will now recognize our employee with 25 years of service, Nancy Jarvis in Utilities with 25 years of service. Nancy was hired in 1994 as a customer service representative, was promoted to various roles within the Utilities Customer Service and Billing Division, then to her current position as a Utilities Business Manager in 2017. And we do have an employee with 30 years of service, Mike Bates in our facilities management with 30 years of service. Mike was hired in 1989 as a control technician, was promoted to various roles within the facilities management department to his current position as facilities operations manager in 2018. On behalf of Marion County, we congratulate each and every one of you. We thank you for your loyal service and many contributions.
Commissioners, I think that's it for presentations this morning.
Thanks, Commissioner.
What a great way to start a meeting, recognizing so many great things in our community as well as so many wonderful people who serve this county so well and for so long with their loyalty. So one more time, an appreciation for them, please. Okay. We'll next go into our general public items, and I will be calling names as you come forward. Please, those who have signed up in advance will have 5 minutes. When you come to the podium, if you'll please give your name and address for the record. There will be a set of lights on the podium to help guide your time. Green, you're good. Yellow, please start to wrap up. And when you see the red light, we ask that you please conclude your comments. So to start us off, we've got Dominic Forelli. And following Mr. Forelli will be Roger Nechtel. So, Mr. Nechtel, you can be on deck and waiting. Good morning, Mr. Forelli.
Good morning, Commissioner. My name is Dominic Forelli, 7 Chestnut Drive, Silver Spring Shores. This morning, my topic was about the swimming pool, only because I read something in a newspaper, the Star Banner, and the price it was going to cost, and you still didn't have the guaranteed location, nor you don't know where the funding is going to come from. My problem is this. I do not believe that government should be involved in any type of amusement park. This thing is not going to run year-round, most likely, and it's not going to benefit the majority of the citizens in this community. Just because the college doesn't want to update their swimming pool, the college that has 3 campuses in 3 counties and a 100-acre farm, don't tell me they're broke. They can fix theirs. It's not our responsibility to take care of their swim meets. And I know that people are saying, well, it would be great for our schools also. Well, they let a private organization build the swim pool in a theme park and put it somewhere where it'll be seen from the highway. But I don't believe that. We have other concerns that need to be addressed in this community other than swimming parks or civic centers. We have higher crime rates in the area now. The neighborhood I live in used to be pretty nice. Now it's become a real slum in the south of landfill off of Baseline. We have all kinds of problems out there, speeders, reckless driving. Even our children are having problems getting to school, their bus stops, without being approached by other people. My wife goes to the stores. We're approached at Kohl's, Silver Spring Shores, at the Publix there, by the homeless. We have all kinds of problems with that kind of things. And we should be concerned about safety for the citizens. Police department, they're undermanned and understaffed, and they don't have enough vehicles on the road. Code enforcement, I don't think they're open enough hours. Neither is animal control. They don't do what they should do. It may take 2 or 3 weeks to respond for a vicious dog in your area. It's just that we need to increase those things. And I see that Mrs. Bryant is not believing that, but I have called up about Rottweilers in my neighborhood, and I live a half a mile from animal control, and been told that they can't come out because they'll be closing shortly. So, and their solution was stay home and stay inside your house for the weekend if the dog's outside. So, so we just have problems. And I would recommend that we focus on the security of the citizens. I'm from Miami originally. My family's been in Florida for almost 100 years. I've seen cities have problems when they grow too fast and are unable to control the laws in their community. And I see Ocala turning into the same direction that Miami did, which turned out to be really bad for them. Orlando, the same way. They're having serious problems. Road rage is up. It's just, you had a motorcycle awareness today. A bike rider in the Shores was hit by a car because the person had road rage against a bike rider. just hit on a parking, he was at a stop sign. We have problems, and we need to address that more than a swimming pool or a civic center. We need to get safety involved first. That's all I have. Thank you. Also, thank you for the, let me see which one it was, Mr. Moore and Mrs. Stone for showing up at the Veterans Park. I appreciate that. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Mr. Farrelly. And Mr. Sweet, if you'll please meet with Mr. Farrelly about after-hour complaints. We do have someone to respond to those, and Mr. Sweet will get with you on that. Mr. Nectel, good morning.
Good morning to you all. Roger Nectel, 12727 Southeast 97 Terrace in beautiful Summerfield. I did, thanks to Dave, we were able to hand out these. I went to a revival in the villages a couple of weeks ago, and they did give out these books. Second page has a table of contents, and you can see almost every person that's in state government is listed there one way or another. You folks are on page 17. I thought you should have been on page 1. $64 million in drafts and grants. Should put you higher. But anyway, everybody is there except one. There's one individual that's missing. You'll see everybody there, but the most important guy here, M.W. Boyonis III. He makes all the decisions here, all the right decisions, I'm sorry, not all the decisions. But anyway, I'm hoping you can use this book. It was a great revival there. It is an attempt to bring God back to this country. And I don't think there's anything more important than that. Monday and Tuesday of last week, April 8th and 9th, I was with a group of people that went up to Tallahassee. The Senate was voting on getting back parental consent for abortions. As of right now, a girl, a woman, any age, can get an abortion without their parents knowing about it. There were almost 60 million abortions since the law was changed. You took all the wars in the world and you're not going to get 60 million. It's sort of a word or number nobody wants to talk about. My wife and I were blessed in that abortion wasn't popular when our kids were growing up, even though my wife was well aware of the fact. And I really never took credit or gave my wife credit for being as tough as she was with the 4 kids, including the boys. I think the parents need to be responsible, and they are responsible, but to take that away from them is a crime. A lot of times men got away with, kids that got to be 14 to 16, 18 years old, they sort of let free. But my wife was a tough one, and it was my job to enforce anything that looked like it was going to be a problem, including if I had to choke the kid to death if he started to say things that were wrong. Today, you don't see any of that. Maybe we had the only 4 bad kids, but I don't think so. Okay, what else? Tiger Woods. I used to go to all the golf at Augusta, and I happened to be there in '04 rather, when Tiger Woods was a shoo-in. Nobody was going to get, and he is the greatest golfer in the world. But in '04, I went there, and everybody said he's the winner, and he's the winner. So just to be different, I said I don't think he's going to win, and he didn't win. Mike Weir from Canada won. So you never know. I mean, he had a beautiful day the other day, Sunday. God bless him. He's gone through a lot in life. Hopefully he learned something. I'm so blessed that I didn't go through those type of things. You're only here once, and when you make mistakes, you pay for them. And no matter how you try to shield us or make yourself disconnected from them, God is watching. Okay. I see there's a new sheriff's or police office, police academy office and fire department building in Ocala. I think that's going to draw some of our people. And with all the money you folks are making right now, especially when it comes to the grants, maybe we should start thinking about giving our police and our sheriffs and fire department maybe a bonus or something to keep them from leaving, because we're going to be losing more people. And again, I keep on saying it, the next generation is not going to want to be involved with rescue or the law enforcement.
Thank you, Mr. Nectel.
And God bless you.
And God bless you as well. Next on our agenda is Attorney Robert Wilson. Good morning, Mr. Wilson.
Good morning. I'm Robert Wilson, 954 East Silver Springs Boulevard, Ocala. I'm the attorney for All Florida Renovations. This is a petition for a partial release of a code enforcement lien on property that my client acquired by a tax deed. In the course of a quiet title suit on that tax deed, the county quite properly asserted that they had a lien on that property that survived the tax deed. The lien that gave rise to this code enforcement lien was on a separate piece of property. My client acquired a piece of property that was owned by the same company that created the situation that gave rise to the lien. The property that was subject to the lien was in Ocklawaha. My client's property is in Smith Lake Estates, Bellevue. By the county ordinance, it's a lien on all the property that is owned by that owner or entity. We went to the Code Enforcement Board, who unanimously approved a partial release of that lien from my client's property, preserving the lien with respect to the other properties. It was pointed out by staff that there were some 10 to 12 other properties owned by that company. So we had asked that my client, who has purchased the property, intends to improve it, intends to make it more higher tax base, pay more taxes on it, not be penalized for all of the lien attaching to that entity, that 1224 Corporation, which was the original owner of the piece in question, and all of their properties, not have to pay all of it. So we would ask the court, the Commission's consideration of that for a partial release of that and preserving it, as I said, for the rest of the property owned by that company.
What agenda item are you referencing?
Pardon me?
Commissioner, this was on the previous agenda item, previous meeting. It was item 7C2. No representation was in the audience at that day, and the board took action to approve staff recommendation, which was not to
Approve.
not to approve the request.
Just comment on that. The staff did not raise any objection at the PNC, at the code enforcement level to the release.
So we have some backup documentation, Commissioners, that was a part of our board package. And Mr. Wilson, I'll leave it with the board if they so choose to take action on this.
I do have a couple of questions. So this property was not the actual property that the code enforcement action was taken on. I know you'd have the answers to the questions. How are you this morning?
I'm good, thank you. Good morning, Commissioners.
If
Robin,
you'll, yeah, thank
Robin
you.
Huff, Marion County Code Enforcement Supervisor, for the record. The violation that was the result of the lien was on a different piece of property than the property that Mr. Wilson is here asking about today. It attached by association of ownership. At the time, the 1224 Corporation owned about 13 pieces of property. Currently, they're down to about 2 pieces or 2 parcels left. I believe most of them are getting sold off on tax deed.
So the property that the violations are associated with, has that property been sold yet?
Actually, the violation was cleaned up, and a partial release of lien releasing that parcel was approved by the board back in 2012.
Okay, so it would seem to me then that it would be appropriate for us to reconsider this issue. Did we, at that time in 2012, what was the amount that they paid? Did they pay the hard costs?
I believe
You said there was a partial.
There was a partial. I don't know that they paid any. I don't have that record with me.
Okay.
But most likely, we released that parcel because they still owned
They
other
still had a
parcels,
bunch.
and we moved the lien to the rest of the parcels.
How much is this particular part? What are we charging them?
Well, the initial
can
lien
read
was
it from here.
$3,000, and our hard costs overall were $53.06.
And we don't know what was paid on the partial release, if anything?
Typically, when we were doing partial releases of lien, they were just releasing the property and leaving the lien in full force and effect against the
Remainder of properties.
the violator.
All right. So what was the recommendation from the Code Enforcement Board on this one?
The
Can't
Code
remember.
Enforcement Board
Here I've got.
recommended that the Board of County Commissioners approve a partial release of lien, releasing the property and leaving it in full force and effect against the 1224 Corp.
So we just keep passing it to a piece of property that they own.
But it doesn't sound like they're paying their bills. They might not be. But anyway.
Yeah, there's one left.
There's one left.
So may I ask?
Yes, Commissioner
So
Zalek.
did your client knew about the lien, right?
Well, they bought a tax deed.
I understand.
They didn't know about it. I mean, they didn't know all the intricacies of, the general feeling is that you go to a tax deed sale, it wipes out all the liens like mortgages and so forth. They didn't know the intricacies.
That's not true.
Of the law that says the county liens survive tax deeds.
Sure,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And they certainly didn't know about the law that says that a county lien extends to other properties, which honestly, but that's not the subject here, I think has a serious constitutional question because you didn't get, jurisdiction over somebody, you got a judgment against them basically, but that's another.
Madam Chair?
Well, in your
Yes.
spare time, I'm sure you could advocate on that behalf and
Commissioner Bryant?
right.
I will note that the value of the property is $6,600.
Right. Robin, so in 2000, when was the original lien recorded? Because I'm only asking you because you'll have it all right there in front of you, and I'll have to dig through all this stuff to find it. 2011.
2011, yeah.
And I found it.
June 23rd, 2011.
I've got it. And the code enforcement action was started when?
January 14, 2011.
Okay. So it only took us 6 months to catch this lien.
Yes.
Okay. And then we did a partial release of the property that the lien was actually on by June of the next year.
Correct.
How long did it take them to clean the property up?
I don't know exactly how long, but by the time they were getting ready to sell it is when it came up that there was a lien, that we had a lien against the property, but the violation was cleared by the time it came back to the code board for the first review.
Okay. All right.
Madam Chair?
Commissioner Zalek?
The other piece of property that's left, Robin, do you know what the value is on it?
I'm afraid I do not.
Well, I'm not gonna be good unless we do at least half of this. I mean, I don't mind splitting it between the two properties, but no less than that for me.
Okay.
You need to make a motion to consider that.
I don't make
Well-
a motion, I just want to discuss it with the board.
Okay.
I mean,
Well-
we need to collect this money.
Well, it's on the agenda, so we can make an.
I mean,
take
we already
action.
did it, so there's nothing saying that we have to go back and even change anything.
Do they have one or two pieces of property left? I thought you said they had two.
When I drafted this agenda item a couple months ago, there were two.
This one and one more or two more?
Hold on.
The other ones had already been sold for tax deeds, but that doesn't mean that
But-
they can clear the title either.
But just to go back to what I said, if they've been sold for tax deeds, then the lien's still there. So they may have been divested of ownership, but those liens are still there.
That's
so
correct.
they're in the same boat that we're in.
Yep.
Two other than the parcel that they're talking about.
So 2 others in addition to this one. So there's actually 3 for the 3,000 lien.
Possibly, yes.
There's others out there that have the same tax lien, so.
I'm gonna look up right now on the property appraiser's website to see what they have out there still.
Mr. Mortzoff is
But it
going
doesn't
to
matter if
endure
Commissioner
his,
Bryant, doesn't matter if they own it or not. At this point, it's still, if it went as a tax deed, they still have the lien on it,
I understand, but I just
even if
wanna
it's
see.
10 more properties.
Mr. Mortzoff, you've
Yeah,
got
Sam
some.
Martz, Marion County Pro Services Director for the record. Of those 2 properties are also in arrears for taxes, so this thing's just gonna bounce from tax to
Right.
tax. There's 12 of them, if we got $250 apiece, we get the 3,000 back, or we can go ahead and get our money as they come in, such as this one.
Well, that's supposed to be the process. I mean, we're supposed to get paid back.
Absolutely, yes, sir.
So there's 3 still out there?
No, there's 2 parcels left, but they're both in the rears taxes. So everything else is going to be sold on tax deed. We're going to do the same thing as we're doing here with all 12 of these, or 13 there were total, with this being the second one to come before you.
Commissioner Bryant?
Well, they've got 2 more that are showing up on our tax rolls left. One of them is valued at a little over $7,300 taxable value, not market value, and then the other one's a little over $4,000. I mean, I think that probably in retrospect, we probably should have addressed this with the original property that the lien was actually filed against. And I understand that you want to get at least half, Commissioner Zalek, but
You can make a motion for something different.
we've done a lot different, on many occasions. So what I would say
They're gonna
is,
have several come before us, so I mean, at least $500.
then that would,
Group our costs.
$500, I mean, I would be able to support that.
You,
So it's-
you will need to make a motion to reconsider that item.
Yeah.
Ask for public comments and then take action.
So do we have a motion to
Motion to reconsider.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Gold, second by Commissioner Moore to reconsider this item. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Do we have anyone in the audience who wishes to address this walk-on item for reconsideration? And we do have someone in the audience.
Henry Munoz, 495 Marion Oaks Boulevard. I understand his plight, but sound accounting practices would seem if you're attaching all the properties, then that means you're going to either put the lien on the one property that created it and leave it there, and even if they sell it at a tax, they still have to pay it. That's a known condition. Or you spread it hard on all the others, and this way the cost is never lost. We're never bouncing around like this. And I think this is something that you guys have to figure out, how you're going to deal with this from now on. You're putting him at a hardship, and anybody else that picks up tax liens at hardships.
You make a great point, Mr. Munoz, and you're right, this needs to be addressed with a policy.
Right. And I think Mr. Zalek's saying 500, yeah. And get the rest, if there are other properties that's still there, that are still viable for sale, put the lien hard on them. They're not transferable, that's it. You're gonna buy the property, you gotta pay that.
Thank you for your comments. Do we have anyone else in the audience who would like to address this issue? If not, I'll bring it back to the board. Well, Mr. Nectel, were you, no?
I'm just being courteous.
Very good. I'll bring it back to the board.
I'll make a motion to assess the $500 to this particular parcel.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Zalek to assess $500 with a second by Commissioner Gold. So let me just pause on that. Does that include the administration fees out of the $500 or in addition to?
I think they were only $53.
Yeah, I mean, they can just be part of this
$53.06.
$500. That's fine. And then if we can just have staff on the next, however several, till we make up this rest of the $3,000, we'll just assess $500, so at least bring that back as the staff recommendation for us. That'll be adequate, Madam Chair.
So we do have a motion for $500, the administrative cost to come out of that $500. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you for being with us, Mr. Wilson. And I believe staff heard the direction that we assess $500 across the rest of those properties as hard cost, so that we, as the fine, let me say, until we recoup our $3,000 appropriately. Okay. Next on our agenda is Barbara Gaines. Ms. Gaines, we welcome you again, and we understand that you have a presentation that you're going to be making to the board this morning, so I just want to make sure that we've got that loaded and available for viewing. Can I get a confirmation from somebody on that?
It's on my screen.
Okay, it's not on ours yet, but
There we
here
go.
it comes. Okay, we got it now.
Barbara Gaines, 8185 Southeast 171st McAlpin Street, The Villages, Florida. Good morning.
Good morning.
We are back before you. We were here, I'm here as a spokesperson for the Villages neighborhood of Calumet Grove. We came to this body 2 weeks ago to express our concerns that the devastation our neighborhood suffered as a result of a ground collapse in February and May of 2018 had gone unnoticed by Marion County. Before you is a slide of depicting the organization chart for Marion County, with which I'm sure you're very familiar. I call your attention to the top box, Citizens, which depicts the foremost authority in the county as far as government. Now, we are here to request your help with taxation and representation. We recognize that the Villages portion of Marion County is 17 miles from the site of this meeting, and it represents a very small portion, physical portion of the county. But as citizens, we pay approximately $19 million in annual taxes. Our section of Marion County, as shown on the slide, has 5,732 total home sites. Now, just to refresh your memories, the ground collapsed 15 months ago and eroded further 12 months ago. Since that time, our neighborhood has had to live with the inconveniences and safety issues on a daily basis. One road has been blocked, causing diversion of traffic to a previously quiet street. Water was diverted to a storm drain, which has not been designed to support it. The residents have been forced to live nearby homes that have been described as similar to the condemned drug dens found in inner cities. These are the facts we are asking you for your help and understanding and support. Since our last appearances, Villages CDD4 has developed a plan to explore a way to remediate the storm drain system and repair the streets. The plan is in the exploration stage and will go out to bid, and the findings will be considered. If this becomes the solution to the problem, it will leave us to deal with the flooded and blocked roads for a minimum of another 3 or 4 months. In addition, we've also been assessed a fee to pay for the repair of these roads, the residents of that District 4. We are in great hope that this will solve part of our problem in the neighborhood. Before you, we have a series of engineering statements from engineering reports. We have brought all of these engineering reports and have given them to the clerk to be admitted as part of the public record. I'm going to draw your attention to the second one on this page, and that is dated on December 6, 2018, from Andrea of Engineering. Andrea of Engineering stated that the increased risk of additional sinkhole activity in turn increases the risk to public health and safety should additional collapses occur prior to the completion of remedial activities. They further stated that they recommended the remediation of the affected areas take place as soon as possible. Again, the date of that letter was December 6, 2018. Bowen Engineering on June 27, 2018, said that in their professional opinion, the house known as the Morrill House should be considered condemned, that the house is structurally unstable and therefore not habitable. That was in June 27, 2018. Bowen Engineering further stated that it was their professional opinion that the damage to this house structure is so extensive and pervasive throughout the structure that repair of this structure would be cost prohibitive, uncertifiable, and unpredictable as to the final product. It was Bowen Engineering's opinion that the house structure was not salvageable. We're bringing you to pictures of what the house looks like. The picture at the top is the house right after it occurred, and you'll see that there is a crack across the front of the house. 14 months later, the changes to this house have continued, even with the stabilizers that were inserted during 2 of the 3 times that someone has come to this house on Saturday to work on it. You can see that there's a greater space between the cracks here, and it's not included in this picture, but to the right of that, to the right of the garage door, is a new crack that occurred all the way down. It looks like the house is kind of tilting. The next slide depicts what happened to the roadway when it originally occurred. That big hole there was then filled in the bottom picture, filled in with sand, but despite that, you can see how much that's expanded, and all around the top of that cement drain area has eroded even more. So that's the change in the last 10 months, coming up to our rainy season. We have Bowen and Andreev engineering firms concluding that the Morrill home was unsalvageable, unsafe, and unstable to remediate prior to removal. A third opinion of this condition of these properties was performed by GeoView of St. Petersburg. Our questions are, can this home and this slab be fixed? The floor elevation survey indicates that the house varied in elevation approximately 4.3 inches, with a severe drop in elevation noted at the area where the house meets the garage. We don't have pictures of that because none of us was willing to go in. The elevation of the garage floor varied approximately 3.4 inches, again with the lowest elevation located in the southwest portion of the garage where the garage meets the house. In December, we came to this board to discuss this as the Newmans were asking for an extension. Code enforcement was given a complete package of the engineering reports prior to that meeting. District 4 representatives and we, the residents, were not allowed to speak, and the Newmans were granted a permit extension. As I said, we have supplied the clerk of the commission copies of all the engineering reports, and we're hoping that these records will be used to determine future permitting of this property. Yesterday, representatives from Marion County, Mr. Gold, Mr. Savage, and Ms. Howe came to visit the property and inspect it. And we noted to them that workers had been on the property for only a total of 3 Saturdays. We really are curious to know which of the engineering reports were used to support the shallow remediation that the engineer says has been done, when the 2 engineering firms concluded that this could not happen. We're at 14 months. Our permits expire in June and July. That will be 16 and 17 months since this happened. And we need your help to move the projects along. We understand now clearly what the delineation is between Marion County's responsibility and CDD4's responsibility. So what we're asking is, we thank you for coming out and looking at the property. We would really like to have from you provide the residents of our district written documentation of the potential scenarios which could occur. We discussed all of these yesterday with Mr. Gold and Ms. Howe and Mr. Savage. If the inspections fail, what's going to happen? If additional permits for stabilization are requested, what will happen? And if the properties are abandoned or not repaired, what would the plans for abatement be? At this point, we appreciate that you are displaying understanding and help and support, and we realize the time and efforts that have gone into solving this problem. We understand it's not something that's going to be solved overnight. We're just frustrated that it's gone on for as long as it has. We thank you again for working with us and supporting us, and we're hoping that when when the permits come up for expiration, that they'll be inspected and hopefully pass. If they don't, we understand from Mr. Savage that they might get an additional permit of 90 days. We're requesting that we not go beyond that, and we recognize that this builder owns at least 17 different companies. Our fear is that he's going to transfer ownership from one company to the next to start that time clock over again of 180 days for processing the permits. And we want to see whatever you can do to stop that from happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gaines.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Commissioner
I
Gordon.
did go out there yesterday, and Mr. Savage could probably explain to the board a little bit more. I thought we had a very good meeting yesterday. It's probably the third or fourth time I've been out to the site. I did walk the house. I did go inside, and I think some of y'all have been inside the house because you told us how we can sneak through the back door, get in the back door of it through the sliding door. So there are people who have been walking around. Mr. Savage came up. I explained to them that it will, in the end, probably be a board decision if it goes to abatement. But Mr. Savage has kind of came and talked about it a little bit, and I think he can explain the permitting process. And there was finally, I guess I'll say there was finally, looks like there was some action by the group, the District 4 group or the CDD. They did have people out there doing bidding process, private companies out there surveying it for bid, which is, according to Mr. Savage, what he'll explain is the builders are wanting to see the path of what happens to the roadway and the drainage on their design to what they're going to do with the two houses. They have put in stabilizers in there that they put a lot into it, but you know, I think Mr. Savage might be able to help us on this, if you're good with that.
Sure.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mike Savage, Building Safety Director. Nice to appear in front of you today. And I've got to applaud Ms. Gaines. She is very passionate about this occasion out at the villages. And the Building Safety Department shares your concern. We would like to have this taken care of many months ago. But alas, the statutes that we deal with have sections and time allowances in it. As far as the issues with the house and the ground movement, there have been movement sensors on that house, movement gauges on that house since the February occurrence when this sinkhole initially appeared. According to the front gauge, in the May timeframe, it moved 1/3 of an inch. Since May of 2018, there has been zero movement on the movement gauges anywhere in the house. The one on the front of the garage, the one on the back of the garage, and the one inside the house where there is a crack where there was a bump out from that particular bay window that was there. So that tells me as a building safety official that the ground has been stabilized, that there is no movement of that structure. The degradation we're seeing in the pictures is from a cementous finish, the stucco, that over time, rain, we went through a winter period where we had a little bit of freezing, thawing going on. It's popping out the stucco. In one of the early pictures from February that I reviewed yesterday, it actually shows a corner of the block that was cracked and somebody actually put it back in. In the current pictures, it's gone, so it makes it look like there's a lot more damage than what there really is. It's just a piece of the block that's missing. Somebody just shoved it back in place. As far as whether the houses are condemnable, it's not a term we use in the Building Safety Department because we have nothing in our code that says a house is condemned. The action that the Building Safety Department took in February was to mark the buildings unsafe. We have 3 levels of marking of a building. One is a green card, one is a yellow card, and yellow means while there's some damage, it's still safe enough you can go in and remove your valuables. And the last is a red card. These two were posted red, stating that they cannot go back in the structure to remove anything. We need to get the structure stabilized, and then perhaps at that time, we will allow them to go back in that property. Once the sinkhole was stabilized, once it was backfilled, once injection grouting was put in, they were stabilized enough where the residents could go back in and remove their material. So we actually have already posted the buildings unsafe. At this point, both properties, as I'll call them as the name that we were talking about earlier, the Morrill property and the Newman property, both have had underpinnings completed by MFC Contracting. Mark Ferrazzi is the owner of that company. I had a very long conversation with Mr. Ferrazzi yesterday. He knows this is a hotbed issue for the building department, that we want to get this taken care of. Mr. Ferrazzi has already done the underpinnings. Actually, on one, he did it on a Saturday at our behest because we wanted to get the Morrill property stabilized a little faster. So we allowed him to do that without even having the permit issued. He came in on a Monday, got the permit issued. The other property, it was a little less damaged, so he was able to work on that pretty much as he was able to get the time available. So in talking with Mr. Ferrazzi, I also spoke with Mark Richter, the engineer of record on this particular property. We provided them all the engineering documentation. I actually sent the new owner thumb drive, it was on a thumb drive, but I sent them the actual PDFs of all the engineering reports that we had in our office, everything we've been presented. They made their determination based off all those engineers' reports. And I don't have to tell you that you can get 3 different engineers looking at a piece of property, and each one has a separate solution. When I spoke to Mr. Richter yesterday, the engineer of record on the underpinning, he had 3 different ways he could fix this structure. And my question was, is it going to be safe when we get done? Because you're going to be required to give the building department an all clear on this. We're going to need a final inspection report stating that it is stable and there is no danger to the public in this building. And he had no problem actually taking care of that, he told me. When I spoke with Mr. Ferrazzi, the people that actually drove the piles go down between 35.5 feet to 49.9 feet to stabilize the structure. At one point, when they were driving the piles, they were actually hitting 4,000 PSI on the gauge, telling them that they were hitting something. They drove a few more times, busted through that, and went about another 15 feet until they finally hit firm bedding. The number they're shooting for is 3,000 PSI. So to let you know how that relates to a building code standpoint, building code, we're only interested in 1,500 pounds per square inch for acceptable bearing for a house. With the piles they've driven, the 2.5-inch steel piles that they've driven, they're actually double what we're looking for from a building code standpoint. And he kept going until they actually hit firm soil and didn't bust through anything. So right now, every pile around both structure is actually sitting at 3,000 PSI. So the question came up about the stormwater pipe between the 2 properties. What's going to happen when and if that gets replaced? I found out yesterday there may be an alternative plan to abandon the pipe and move it around throughout the properties. That was news to me as of yesterday. If that pipe is abandoned, Mr. Ferrazzi and the engineer have worked out a way of putting in spreader beams so they can actually spread the load around on the house. According to Mr. Richter, they will then go in again once they jack the house up to get it level to where they are. Again, we've had very little movement, but they're going to stabilize it even more. Once they jack it up, then they're going to do more injection grouting because there's a couple anomalies under the Morrill property. Then they're going to go in and injection grout that, form it up so it's a nice stable fill, and then at that point they're going to complete the renovations to the house to make them livable again. So with that, if you have any other questions or any other information you'd like to?
Just to kind of reiterate the discussion we had yesterday, if in June and July the permits expire, you made mention that, we don't want to see, or you didn't want to see a continuation of renewing those permits. What's the thought process on that?
Yes, sir. Yesterday there was a question about, there was a comment in the first time when I believe when they appeared in front of the board that they didn't want to see us extend the permits. So yesterday I explained that an extension is a far better aspect than a re-permit because an extension only allows up to 90 days and it's up to the building official how many extensions they get. So in speaking with Mr. Ferrazzi, I explained the same thing, that we were only looking to get these permits finalized out as soon as you know. Well, it sounds like they've got a plan that now they're going to move forward. But if it were to be the occasion that they were to extend the permits, I offered an extension of 1 90-day period if they need that. Again, it doesn't sound like it's going to happen. Now, if they truly have 17 companies and they decided that they wanted to discharge this sinkhole to another one of the companies, by right, I cannot tell them they cannot get another permit. If they meet all the requirements under the law, I have to issue them a permit. The power I've got is I don't have to issue temporaries or, extensions if I don't want to. So the benefit for the village would be for me to issue an extension, because that keeps that permit active, cuts the time in half, and allows them the additional time to figure out what the village's plan is going to be as far as dealing with the infrastructure, and then we can get that movement going forward. The problem that I'm seeing mostly at the street level is more erosion. I don't see a lot of movement at the street. I've taken a ton of pictures of the street level as well, because that gives me an indication if the stormwater pipe's still working, if we've got actual fluid moving through it, or what the case may be. If you look at the street level, a lot of it is still level with where they backfilled it back in the May timeframe. You even see grass and growth going around the edges of it. But there's a lot of erosion where the stormwater inlet was. They haven't fixed that, and I think that's the case of a lot of the erosion. It's pretty standard when you see that along a building site.
And from looking at that, I mean, I want to see it finished as soon as possible. I'm sure, I would hope everybody else would want to see it do this. It looks like there's a plan in place. It's something that we'll keep monitoring. There's a possibility that one of the questions that they came up, what happens if they abandon the permit? They've already put $100,000, possibly, if that's what the amount is, $100,000 into purchasing both properties, plus they pinned both properties. So I don't see them abandoning it, which would put us into an abatement issue that, would be a longer process, but
Right.
if we had to do it, I'm sure that it would be looked at, but that'll be a complete board decision. But companies usually don't abandon over $100 and some thousand on a property,
Yes, sir.
mostly after they've already pinned it. But I'm in agreement with Mr. Savage. I don't want to see him continue to get these extensions, and I feel comfortable with what
Okay.
his opinion is on that.
Very good. So at this point, the process is, they have a timeline, June, July. You've spoken with them and said, if you've got work in process, you have verbally confirmed to them they can have a one-time extension only to complete that work. And then it's up to the CDD on how they're going to deal with the pipes underground to readdress that issue.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay,
ma'am. It
very
was a
good.
very productive conversation with the contractor and the engineer.
Sure. Commissioner Zalek?
Yeah, I think Commissioner Golden, as you get to see that, to say that this is ridiculous is probably an understatement at this point. I understand that the private property owners is one thing,
Right.
but the CDD not fixing the road is altogether a different. I don't understand that. We would never allow our county administrator on a county road, no matter what happened, not to go out there and fix it immediately. I mean, at least get it stabilized, and then to allow a road to be unpaved and unsafe for over a year is absurd. Have we ever run into anything, even in our private subdivisions, when that happened, when the big pipe busted out on Oak Run, they fixed it. We got out there, they got out there, everybody involved in it fixed it. They got an easement from the private property owners to fix it. I mean, there is no reason the CDD, at least in my opinion at this point, should not have fixed that and made it safe. Commissioners, I think our attorney should at least write them a letter or something, because this is. It really frustrates me, especially when it's our retirement communities, because, these are the people that have built this country and given us this opportunity. And for them to take advantage of that process and not to fix it, it just gets really under my skin. And I can't stand the fact that they would have allowed that to happen. You hear our attorney talking to us about potholes at a certain level become unsafe and people walk on them and we're liable. How is the CDD that is collecting money from these citizens and not bonding it, fixing it, taking out a loan, whatever they have to do to get it stable? I'm speechless.
I'm not sure that we have jurisdiction over that issue, though,
We could
because
certainly
they elect
help
their
them.
CDD board.
Sure.
And so they need to hold their CDD board accountable.
Absolutely.
So Mr. Mentor, would your letter mean anything to them?
Mr. Mentor says anybody can sue anybody, so why can't Marion County at least get them to legal action?
And we did, Monier, I think we had invited one of the representatives here to the last meeting, correct? Was it, Mr. Bayer?
I had already a couple meetings with the CDD administrator, and last time he informed me that they are thinking about rerouting the drainage, not using the easement between the two houses. And they still say they are waiting on the property owners to finish their repair so they can repair the road.
Yeah, it just keeps going back and forth.
You can't.
I have no-
The infrastructure
I have
is their
no authority.
Their infrastructure is their responsibility. Private ownership has, I mean, like Mr. Savage talked about, that's got a whole different route. But they have an obligation when they collect taxes and fees to fix the infrastructure and make sure that neighborhood is safe. That is
So,
their obligation.
Do they need their own legal attorney, though, to push forward with that versus the county of Marion
These are our
County?
citizens. Why can't we support them?
I get that's our citizens, but Mr. Mentor, please help address this issue for us.
Well, Madam Chair, you know, a long time ago in this whole sad story, the district had a law firm out of Orlando that was sending us letters threatening to sue us, claiming that we were the ones that needed to fix this. And so we had many conversations with them in which we indicated to them that this was their responsibility. It's now apparent that they never sued us. I think it finally became apparent to them that it was not Marion County's responsibility to deal with this situation. So with that history, I don't know that me sending them a letter is going to have any particular effect on them.
Well, and that's my point. It's not that we don't want to help. We don't have authority to help. So please understand that issue.
If we file suit, the judge is going to make a decision and at least hold them accountable. That is the bottom line.
So
and it will cause them to have action. They
So
invest,
are
take
you
action.
wanting to take the citizens?
Yeah, I'll take their side any day.
Right.
And let's go file a letter to them and put them under notice.
Really, I mean, we just heard our attorney say, though.
That it's their
Commissioner
obligation.
Zalek, but it's not Marion County's obligation, nor authority, and you are spending taxpayer dollars that
Absolutely.
are not appropriately spent.
It's your
And
case.
that's my concern.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Okay, can I bring this back around? I remember at our last meeting, it was suggested that we send a letter to them. Did we send a letter, and have we gotten any response back?
Correct.
The letter was sent to Ms. Gaines,
Okay.
explaining the issue, and there have been verbal conversations around attempting to mediate. At this point, we're simply just mediators in the best way to describe this situation.
Okay, so could I suggest that we actually send a letter to the CDD
Correct.
president, chairperson? I don't know how they're structured there, but just to ask them to give us in writing the action that is being taken.
And
I don't know if
I
you've had
have
an
a
opportunity to
meeting
talk
set with them. They've come
Okay, so Commissioner Gold has a meeting set with them.
I think
I would rather we give Commissioner Gold an opportunity to go down there.
Correct.
Talk with them, ask them what the plan of action is so that this board knows what the plan of action is. I have a feeling that some of the delay has been waiting to see what was going to happen as far as repairs on the houses so they could figure out if they needed to reroute that stormwater.
Actually,
But-
it's the opposite.
Is it the opposite?
It's the opposite. The home need to find out, because that pipe runs
they were
through
gonna
there.
do.
And I'm doing this unexperienced here, so you're
Well,
gonna have to.
and Commissioner
they're-
Gold was late at before it got to us.
No,
You've had it
we've known
within
about
a
it. It's just
month.
been coming up.
So I'm
So
going
it's,
to just come
there
back
was-
to my original thoughts real quick, and then we can have some further discussion. And my original thoughts are that we give Commissioner Gold the opportunity to go down there, find out what the plan of action is, come back, report to this board. This board will give an official statement to the citizens as to what's going on at that point in time. That way, everyone is kept in the loop. I have a feeling that while this has been frustrating and it's taken quite some time, we are getting to the phase where it is going to be taken care of. And while I know that you hate hearing this, but probably just a little bit more patience is going to get you the end result. If that's not the case, if we find out that's not the case, then this board can step in and find out what we can actually do that's actually going to give you the results that you want.
That is the most appropriate.
I need to find out, well, what I got from Ms. Gaines yesterday is that, and then from just speaking to, these were just the contractors out there bidding, so they're not going to give official. I need to find out, because we did hear yesterday, we're not, you said it was a discussion or exploratory on their side to see how much it would cost. I want to see if they actually put it out to bid, if they put that out to bid, if it's something that they're getting ready to do, because I think once the plan comes on, the builders can go ahead and start their process. But once they know what the plan is, then they can start it, and then we might be able to know something. But he has scheduled a meeting with me. I know that he was asked to come up here for the one meeting. So
Commissioner-
I'll keep in touch with you, and we'll let you know what's going on if you're the spokesperson for him, and go through that. And you've got my number, so.
Commissioner Gold, could we also maybe invite them to our next meeting so that they could give us an update on what their plan of action is?
I can invite them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you did invite him up to one of them, correct? To
He
our-
was invited, I believe he was invited by the residents. And I asked him when I met with the administrator if he is planning on being at our last meeting.
Okay, so no, what I would like for us to do, Madam Chair, is to invite them to our next board meeting to give this board an update on the plan of action that is being taken out there and what we can expect.
We'll make it an agenda item.
I will do that,
From-
and
that's
I
from the
will send them an
CDD.
invitation in writing.
Yes.
Very good. That's most appropriate at this moment. And then Commissioner Zalek, if you want to come back and sue, you bring
No,
your
I'm just saying,
decision.
I think we can write them, Commissioner, listen, at the end of the day, a lot of that takes some action. They should have fixed this already, and I know you guys all chatting here, but if it takes as long as our process takes for them to re-engineer the stormwater, to re-engineer the road, to come back and do all of that, these folks are still gonna be waiting 6-8 months from now before
Commissioner
construction
Zalek,
starts.
what the idea is, and I think what Mr. Savage explained, is if they come up with their plan, which obviously if they're looking at bidding it, they've got a plan, that there shouldn't be a reason for the builder not to go ahead and get the houses back into shape. Is that correct?
Once
And-
the plan
Right, but I
is
don't know
in
how worried
place.
about these folks are about the building as much as getting the road fixed.
Well, it's all part of it too, so I mean, if they
It's
can
a
get the
dovetail.
houses, because as they were saying, the houses look like, are
I
unsightly and dangerous and everything, and when you go out there, the roads are very inconvenient right now, they can loop around them, but if we see some progress going with the homes, that's gonna make a big issue on there.
And the
So-
homes have been stabilized based on the report that we just had.
Yes, ma'am, they have.
Yeah,
Okay.
I walked in the back, the
got
neighbors have
contractors
walked
on.
through it, so, I mean,
And one last thing, I think we all have some pretty good relationships down in the villages. I think that it probably wouldn't hurt for us each to maybe pick up the phone and make a phone call.
So do we have, Commissioner Gold's going to take the lead in this, and he'll report back to the board, and we will invite the administrator of the CDD to our next board meeting in hopes that we will have a update from him. And I'm sure the citizens are going to continue to work with your CDD, that's where your dollars go, and that's who you're holding accountable to take care of this. So thank you for being with us today. Next on our agenda, we have Karen Arman, who is here as well.
Did she just step outside?
Jeff,
We will be opening for public comment after we complete those that have already signed up this morning. So we still have some other people who have made arrangements to speak, and I will be opening it for public comment after they have spoken.
you have Jeff before Karen, did he cancel?
Yes, Mr., I've already drawn a line through his name, but yes, he has canceled. Mr. Musatane is not present. So is Karen Arman with us?
I don't see her.
She's here. I think she
I
just
did
stepped
see
out into
her,
the-
so, and we have 4 others that I got notification will not be with us today. David Dilberg, Nancy DeGreena, Brittany Rosensweet, and Kathy Wyckoff.
Is that Karen?
All 4 of them have canceled. So then we have Rob Reinhardt. Mr. Reinhardt, if you're with us.
Come on down.
please come forward. Mr. Reinhardt, you'll have 5 minutes. I think you've,
That's a pretty basic thing.
if you'll give your name and address for the
Okay,
record, please.
my name's Robert Reinhardt. I'm from Summerfield, Florida, 10395 Southeast 148th Street. Topic's pretty obvious here. I'm here to talk about mosquito control and what can be done to get a program going on. The 5 surrounding counties, somehow 3 of them are smaller ones, somehow managed over, I tried to bring this up 10, 12 years ago by a letter to former county commissioner, and he just more or less blew me off, saying that they didn't feel it was needed at the time, but somehow 3 smaller counties that are probably fiscally smaller than Marion County have managed to get their own mosquito programs going according to the Florida Department of Agriculture, what they're showing on their map, and we're lacking it. And that goes, Volusia has it, Lake, Sumter, Citrus, and Levy all have their own mosquito control programs, but we don't.
Are you through,
And it's a quality of life issue I'm bringing up. It's quality of life. It's also a health, issue. You get these mosquitoes in the hot months of summer and everything. It's just a
I'll wait till you're done, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'm basically, it's a basic thing, it's what can be done to get a program started in this county, a spray program and control.
Mr. Reinhardt, we do spray for mosquitoes at the direction of the health department.
Okay.
So we do have a program as needed. We also have a lot of agriculture in this community, including honey farms, bee farmers that appreciate that we only use mosquito control when it is absolutely necessary. So thank you for being with us today.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Ms. Arman, if you'll please come forward, and I believe that's going to be everyone, and then I will be taking public comment behind Ms. Arman.
Sorry, Karen Arman, 2234 Northeast 6th Place, Ocala, Florida. A couple of weeks ago, I've had 3 different issues with dogs running amok in my yard. The first one started at 5:30 a.m. and it was a husky and another large hound. I did succeed in getting them out of my yard. 2 days later, a different husky and a different hound. I did find a dead cat in my garage that I believe is from that crew. A day later, another husky by itself that I actually witnessed tearing up one of my cats. A cat that was 10 years old, blind, couldn't even hear the dog coming, was sleeping in the sun at the bottom of my tree. She didn't even see him. And he picked her up and treated her like a dog toy and threw her down, which shattered her jaw. It took me 2 days to find that cat and get her to the vet. By the time I did, there was no saving her. The infection was so bad that when we shut the exam room door, you could smell it. We were gagging on the infection. So Grandma, who lived 10 nice years at my back door, reminds me every time I walk out that she's not here. So as I spend all of my time TNRing to help this county be no kill, we have to TNR these cats. And we can't put them out to be live dog toys. So there's going to have to be some kind of change to the ordinance where these dogs cannot run rampant. I want you to know that I witnessed Rambo killing my cat. I literally saw this cat in its mouth, and I saw him go back for him. I had to get between this dog and my cat. And then I had enough mind, and I don't know why, to grab its collar and put it in my car instead of running it off, because running it off isn't helping me. They're coming back. I have spent at least $25,000 in 10 years to help this community. And although you guys see these as unowned cats, when they are injured, I vet them. They live on private property. They are not behind McDonald's. They are not behind a store. They are on 1 acre at my home. These cats weren't down by the street at all. These cats are half an acre up in my property. These dogs are all the way back at the end of my property. I have pictures and videos of all of them. Rambo, after he killed my cat, the officer left my driveway and drove him straight home. He was not even impounded. He wasn't charged with no leash. He wasn't charged with killing my cat. That's unacceptable to me. That's unacceptable to me that it kills a cat in my yard, and it's driven 2 blocks away and delivered back to the home that let it loose in the first place. And let me tell you a little history on Rambo. Rambo has a history, and the ACO that picked him up should have checked that history before he took Rambo home, okay? Rambo has also bitten a human. Rambo, this is his 2nd time. No rabies, no county license. Same owner. This owner also has a cruelty charge against Rambo for having him tethered so long that he wore a ring around his neck. Okay? This owner does not need this dog. This is a good dog, and this owner is going to cost this dog its life. Because I'm telling you, if it comes in my yard again, at my cats, I have no choice but to protect my property, and I will not put my body between a aggressive dog and a cat that it's trying to eat again. It wasn't the smartest thing I've ever done, and I have a lot to take care of at home, my father, my son, and I cannot be out here fighting the dogs in my yard. So we really got to crack down on county licenses, rabies tags, and making sure people if they're going to own a dog, be responsible. These are not arm candy. This isn't something you walk around, oh, I got a husky, I got a shepherd, I got this. These are living beings.
Thank you, Ms. Arman and Mr. Sweet. I know you're very aware of it. Thank you. I'm going to open the floor now for anyone who has not signed up, and I'll start with the first person who's filled out a yellow card, and that would be Sandra Shaw. Ms. Shaw, you'll have 2 minutes.
Sandra Shaw, 2309 Northeast 37th Street, Ocala, 34479. Good morning, everyone. I hope all of you are doing good. I'm doing great, getting better by the day. Having an amazing family, friends, and a bunch of love heals so much. I can hardly remember my past. And oh my dog, what a possum day I had at the 175th anniversary event. I met so many wonderful people, kids and dogs. I promoted awareness against puppy mills, and we handed out so much stuff. I can't wait to do another event. Commissioner Stone, thank you for introducing me to your husband and stopping by our booth, and of course the pets. Commissioner Moore, it was great having you next door to us, hanging with me and all the pets throughout the day. I was so happy to see you both. Commissioner Gold, I'm so sorry I missed you, Puzzle, and your family. I was told you were there. I would have loved to have seen you. I just wanted to thank all of you for letting me attend these important meetings and letting me have a voice here. I feel as though you truly listen to what I have to say. Until we see each other again, take care and please be our voice.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shaw.
Thank
Goodbye,
you.
Noel. I'll now open the floor if there's anyone else who'd like to come forward. We have 2 podiums. You can both come forward. Ma'am, if you'd like to come on here, and you may go ahead. 2 minutes with your name and address, please.
Susan Thompson, 9881 Southwest 67th Terrace, Ocala, Florida. I just have 2 questions. The first one is, since you know all about the puppy mills, that's why we're not going back into that. I'd just like to know if there's been any progress in working on the ordinance against puppy mills in Marion County.
We'll be addressing that at our next meeting in May. 2 weeks.
My second
Or our
question,
first meeting in May, excuse me.
first meeting in May?
I'm pretty sure, is it on our first meeting, May 7th, if I'm not mistaken? We're going to be approving that date a little bit later in our agenda.
Thank you for considering us. Also, the puppy mill in Summerfield, where it was zoned, where they can't have them anymore, is there any progress on her moving those dogs out of that area?
You'll have to talk to code enforcement. That's not something that we've got issue with at this board level. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Marion Riccio. I live at 17080 Southeast 79th McLaren Terrace. I'm one of the residents with all the slides that went up. So, as you know, this incident happened 15 months ago. And just to inform you, Mr. Zalak, I'm not sure how to say your name, I apologize, but our road collapsed because the 2 red-tagged homes were not stabilized for over a year. So therefore, the hole beneath them kept expanding. So right in front of those homes is where our street collapsed, and I live next door to that, as well as the homes that are red tagged. So because we had been coming to code enforcement, meeting after meeting after meeting, so that the original homeowners wouldn't just be given extension after extension after extension, because we knew our road was gonna collapse. So now, yes, our road collapsed. So the pipe that should be able to be put between those 2 homes cannot be put there because those homes have not had deep stabilization. And in reading those engineering reports, I'm not an engineer and I'm not Michael Savage, but to give a permit for shallow stabilization, when all those reports indicate, number one house needs to be demolished. It can't be salvaged. So what shallow stabilization is going to do is beyond me. And the reason the pipe isn't going between the homes is because this shallow stabilization was done only. And CDD4, and I believe has an appointment with you, Mr. Gold, on May 7th because he asked me to attend, Richard Beer, district manager. The reason the pipe can't go between those 2 homes is because only shallow stabilization was done. And any concrete that we put in there to build the walls between them is just going to go underneath both homes. Those engineering reports show that a mushroom effect has to happen to support one home, and the other home needs to be taken down. So there's no way our pipe can go between those homes. And that's the only reason we have to now go to spend more money to reroute those pipes.
Thank you for your comments this morning. Do we have anyone else in the audience who'd like to come forward?
Yes, Marianne Mowers, 17083 Southeast 79th Street, McLaren Terrace. I just didn't like the attack on our CDD representative because it's not their fault. It's Marion County's fault that those houses weren't taken care of. They can't do anything to the structure, the pipes, as long as those homes aren't stabilized and that pipe closed off, if that's what they're going to do. They've come up with a plan now, but those houses are still there. And immediately when they were first saw, they were told they need to be demolished. There's too much going on underneath that we don't know, we don't see. And once the rainy season starts, you're going to see those houses move a little bit more because that water is going to go right down beneath them. So I'd like to see Marion County move. Don't give them any more time. Let's get one house demolished and then look into revitalizing the other home. But I can't even imagine anyone buying that house when they hear the history of what it is. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Bowers.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes.
I just want to say, I mean, I'm not attacking a representative. I'm saying that if that happened in Marion County, we would not allow a road to stay that way.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Chanel Mendoza, 14455 Southwest
44th Avenue, Ocala, Florida.
Thank you, Ms. Mendoza. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. So good morning, Commissioner. I'm coming forward because I want to be the first person in Marion County to open a human trafficking home. I have been dealing with neglected and abused and sexually exploited children since the age of 15. I recently worked for DJJ and also DCF and now Kids Central. I have also partnered with, I'm trying to partner with Kids Central for the human trafficking kids in order to be the first for Marion County. I have that meeting on the 22nd. I've been trying extremely hard. It took me 6 years to revamp the petition that I have and also the proposal. It's been stolen twice, the ideas and many things like that. And also the grant that I tried to write, and then that also was taken. I'm asking for the commissioners to guide me into a direction where I can move forward with my project.
That's not something that this commission would do, but would community services be a place that we could ask her to speak with, Mr. Boyones?
She can.
Okay, yeah, do we?
Not sure that we have.
If there's some opportunity for us to assist you, we have a community services division that can help with whatever direction we have authority to assist. And Ms. Martin, I think, is in the audience, and she'll step forward and just make connection with you.
Okay.
Did you have something, Commissioner Bryant?
I also think that it would probably be a good idea to maybe connect Ms. Mendoza with Diane Schofield with Saving Mercy.
That's a great idea.
Because she deals with girls that have come out of human trafficking situations.
Yes.
She runs a home for girls. Do you know Mrs. Schofield?
Yes, Ms. Bryant, we'd rather be separate.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Miss Martin will give you some connection, and if there's something that we can do, she'll certainly give you any aid that's available.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. All the best as well, and thank you for what you're attempting to do. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. Dale Kreitzer, 259 Marion Oaks Lane, Ocala, Florida. I'm here just to ask you guys, of course, my friend Karen, who lost her cats to an unfortunate situation with a husky. The cat itself was sleeping in its yard, and the dog.
We heard the story, yes, Ms. Kreitzer.
The dog did go loose, but my concern is the ordinances that we have is when an animal goes loose and when it is deemed dangerous. I believe in the ordinance that we have with the animal control that it cannot be given to a rescue. Although this dog did get loose, and unfortunately because of the owners, it doesn't mean that the dog itself is dangerous. And I believe the way it is written right now is that when a dog is deemed dangerous, no one can pull the dog except the owner, if I'm correct. I'm not positive, but it would be better to have in our ordinance that if a rescue would come forward to take the animal, that it would be spared its life if the owner does not, because a dangerous dog is very expensive to redo every year. And it's not always a dangerous dog just because somebody left it loose. It's the owner's fault.
Commissioner Bryant?
Okay, and Ms. Kreitzer, I do believe that that's something that we are looking at with the changes, several changes that we're looking at in the ordinance. I think that in Ms. Armin's case, it's multifaceted, the issues that are there with that, because while Ms. Armin says it's her cat, the cat that she was talking about that was unfortunately killed by the dog was actually a community cat. So there's just so many different facets there.
Absolutely.
That our hands are just a little tied with this particular issue.
Right.
But I think that if you will hang tight and
See what happens next
wait
month.
to see, you know, some of the things that we're talking about with the ordinance. Jim and his staff and Dana are doing a fabulous job in researching a whole lot of stuff for us. So we'll be discussing some
We
of these
appreciate
things.
everything you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Munoz, thank you for coming on down, and if we have anyone else in the audience, I'm going to invite you to come down to the other lectern while Mr. Munoz is speaking.
Okay, Henry Munoz, 495 Marion Oaks Boulevard. I come here not to complain, but to thank the road department for taking care of some of our roads that were in bad repair. The community people came over to me, asked me if I could do something. I talked to the road department and says, yeah, we're going there, and I look forward to the great job that they're going to do on Marion Oaks Lane, which they have done something to make it easier to drive on, and the repair is coming very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz. We appreciate a little pat on the back, especially the road department. So Tracy, please take that home. There being no one else in the audience to speak, I'm going to close our general public items. We do not have anything from our constitutional officers, but I'll then take us on over.
to adopt the minutes.
Excuse me. Thank you for helping me. As I turn my page, I realize my error. I appreciate that. Commissioner Moore, we have two sets of minutes. A motion made by Commissioner Moore to approve those, second by Commissioner Gold. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you again, Commissioner Moore. And next, Mr. Elsperman, Clerk of the Court, we've got 5A1 through 5A10.
Yes, ma'am. Before that, I'd like to make sure the board remembers or understands when we do tax deed sales in the clerk's office, it is a buyer beware. It's very well publicized that there may be liens attached to property, and it is the bidder's responsibility to do the research. So there's really no surprise it should occur from anybody other than they're lazy. They don't want to do the research in official records. So for that, it's on the record. So 5A1 through 10 is on the agenda for approval for budget amendments.
So moved. Second.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Moore, second by Commissioner Gold. Any other comments or discussion before we call the vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. And thankfully, we had no public hearings this morning. We'll next move to our consent agenda. I'll start with Commissioner Zalek. Do you have anything to pull?
Yeah, 72.
7E2. And Commissioner Moore?
Well, he just got it, so.
Okay. Commissioner Gold? Commissioner Bryant?
I'm good, thank you very much.
All right, so I'll take a motion to approve all but 7E2.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Moore, second by Commissioner Gold. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. And Commissioner Zalek, 72.
So just going through the scope, I know that most of us are pretty intimately familiar with the McGinley project, and this is for part of the DOE road. One of my concerns, or one of the things I thought as I read the scope, and I don't know if we could take advantage of, is I thought that the property owner had done a lot of surveying. I thought that the property owner had done, a lot of the FWC and species and all that other kind of stuff, but I see it listed here again in this document. I don't know why we would need to repay somebody else to do it again if the owner or the site engineer has that stuff done. I was just under the assumption, maybe I could be wrong. If somebody could help me with that, I would appreciate it.
Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tracy Straub, County Engineer. We are coordinating some of that with the owner. It needs to be reviewed and looked at.
Okay.
There are some things that we don't believe were completely closed up and finalized in a format that can be used, but that possibly we can do that with the information that they have.
Okay.
So it is not being overlooked.
Okay, and on the team there, are all those folks pretty much local surveyors and all the other subs?
So
usually they put that with their application.
Kinley Horn uses a lot of their own staff, and so while the immediate team that's doing the engineering is the local team,
Right, we know
their
those
surveyors, their environmental folks, they are coming from other locations.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
May I ask a question?
Yes,
Just
absolutely.
because I know from Marion Oaks, because, we build out in Marion Oaks, that, like, east of I-75 and west of I-75 have different rules on sand skinks. With them being out of the area, are they going to be familiar with that idea? Because, there's some things like scrub jays, which is going to be same in Marion Oaks, but when you get out to Marion Oaks, the way you deal with sand skinks in the shore sand skinks in Marion Oaks are actually two different ways. Are they going to be I assume they would. Are they from Florida? Where are these people coming
So
from?
this is the same firm that is actually doing our portion of 480.
So then they're
484
familiar
right
with
there,
that.
and they're also doing the 49th Avenue in that portion. So
Okay.
they've got a pretty good handle on that
then-
already.
okay.
Well, actually,
With
those
the McGinley
certificates, if
information.
they have certificates for the species or any of those other things, that's going to work for most of the entire property, even with the 49th or this project, right?
It could if the owner wanted to do the whole site. They're not interested in necessarily tackling the whole site with some of these projects. So the owner's making some of those decisions on their property.
Okay, when you mentioned they're coming from out of the area, are they coming from like neighboring counties, or are they coming from like Volusia, or are they coming South Florida, Atlanta?
So
I mean,
honestly, I don't
where-
remember where the environmentalist is.
Oh, okay,
we have
maybe
the
that's the
consultant
gentleman
here.
that will have the answer.
I'll turn it over to the consultant.
Anyway, because
Okay, yeah, please do. Thank you.
I thought, because local preference and all. But
Good morning. I'm Richard Bush with Kimley Horn and Associates, Office
Richard.
101 East Silver Springs Boulevard. Thank you. Our environmental staff actually comes out of Vero Beach, and they are the same environmental staff that handled both the sand skink and all of your environmental issues for the two previous roadway phases of 49th Avenue to the north. They are
Okay.
well aware of
Okay,
the,
I figured they were, but when he said that, it kind of threw me, because I know that different parts of our county get treated differently.
Yes, sir. We've been working in Marion County on your projects for years, and we
Yeah.
are well aware of all the work that the property owner has done prior to this, and it was accounted for in our scope of services, and we
Right,
continue
because
to.
you guys have already done some of the work there even prior to that.
So like a lot of the
Just want to make
survey-
sure we're not paying for it twice, Richard. That's
Believe me, your staff was making sure of that too. So like the survey work, the boundary is actually being set by our surveyors for the 484 project that we're doing for Marion County as the boundary of the roadway. And we're aware of some topographic information that Mr. McGinley's procured, and we've been utilizing that.
Very good. So all of your questions answered. Do you have another one, Commissioner Moore?
I have some.
Yeah, go right ahead.
I'm good. Since you pulled, okay.
Thank
My
you.
other question would be more for staff, because I had a constituent that, as he put it, he has no dog in the fight. But he was asking about how he was looking at it, reading it, more our process of selection, how we go about it. And maybe, Susan, if you can explain, just so it's out on public record, what we follow according to state guidelines. This is why we're set the way we are, and you can kind of address the selection process to make sure everything's open and transparent.
Sure. Susan Olson, Procurement Services Director. We follow the Consultants Competitive Negotiation Act when we choose any architects or engineers, surveyors, or mappers. And it's a process that we've followed since I've been here, since the statute's been in place. And it calls for a selection committee to score the proposals. We cannot consider price until after we've ranked the firms. We do consider location, and we consider Kimley Horn as a local vendor based on the way our ordinance is written. And by CCNA standards, we can allow that. So the selection committee scores. We usually do presentations, and they score again based on those presentations or interviews in this case. And the highest ranked firm, that's the firm that we negotiate with. If we are unable to reach a satisfactory negotiation with the first ranked firm, we go to the second, and so on.
Okay.
But that's all stated in CCNA.
One of the questions the gentleman asked me yesterday was about how we select our selection committee. And if you can step into that, and also why we have 3 instead of 5, or why we have that, because he was basically saying that he feels it's more subjective than objective with our selection committee. And I was thinking, really, as commissioners, we don't, till it gets out of procurement, we don't get near it. We let you do your job, and then it comes to us. So if you could maybe explain that whole, bit.
Well, the selection committee is usually recommended by the department director in most cases, and it usually has a mixture of experts in the field. In this case, we had engineers and
Sam.
and Sam was on. So there were 3, but 2 of those people were engineers and 1 was Sam Martzoff. So I mean, they know these projects. They know, they're scoring on different categories and criteria that we set up and we weight, so the vendors are aware of what's important to us. It's chosen ahead of time. The committee meets. It's an open meeting. The only thing that is not open to the public is when we do the presentations, and that's by state statute as well. But everything else is sunshine and open meetings when they're scoring and everything.
Okay.
So it's very transparent, the
Right,
process.
transparent, but the gentleman yesterday was talking to me about, was more concerned about subjective versus objective. How do we make reduce the subjectivity in any of our selection processes? Because this gentleman's going to have a thing that I guess he's going to be bidding on in the future. He hasn't came out yet, but he said he was going to be bidding on the future. He wants to make sure it's very objective when he bids.
Yes.
And he was reading this one and had a concern, so I don't know.
Well, if there's any concerns about the way that a solicitation is written or the way that the process is going, I would hope that somebody would bring it up during the open process, because we can address it at that time. There is always going to be subjectivity when you're dealing with people grading, proposals and people. We try to eliminate as much subjectivity as possible by weighting. So these people that are on the selection committees, they give a score that's multiplied by the weight. We try to use odd number selection committees, so 3 or 5 usually. Sometimes we even have people from outside the county, and we've had people from the city sit on selection committees. And procurement, who is kind of like the middle person in here, always facilitates the meetings. So we keep them on track with talking only about what's in the presentation or what's in the proposal or what's allowed for in the state statute that we consider. So we try to keep it as objective as possible, but I believe there's always going to be some subjectivity.
Before you step away, Commissioner Bryant?
So to that point, is there any way possible that in the initial grading that we could not put names of anybody on the proposals, just proposal A, proposal B, proposal C, proposal D? Just think about that. That way nobody knows who it is in the beginning stages. And then second, I just had a question about pricing. How do we weight pricing?
We don't.
We don't at all.
We cannot.
We cannot.
We are not
Okay.
allowed to do that by state statute, yes.
Okay.
I don't know if keeping them anonymous.
By the time you get to
I'd have to check
presentation,
that.
then
Yeah.
everybody's going to know.
Yeah.
But at least in the initial scoring, if we could keep them anonymous.
Right.
Part of what CCNA allows us to review is their work that they've done, though, and that's what a lot of this is, because remember, it's a request for qualifications. So by the very qualifications they're giving us, they're probably going to be able to know who it is. So I'll look at it, though. It's a good idea. It really is.
And I don't mind sharing with this particular selection, you had 3 firms that submitted. All 3 firms actually were ranked very, very tightly, and you did not have the committee rank everybody the same way. So I think that you saw a varied opinion in that. We did pick who we picked. With this being a road project and with utilities in it, we have a team member from the Office of the County Engineer that knows road construction. We had a team member from utilities because of the utility influence. And because this particular parcel, as it's going through development in PUD, I reached out to Sam Martzoff's office because I felt like it was very important to have somebody who understood the land use, the zoning, the buffers, the setbacks, because I knew those would be a conversation as we worked on this Commerce Park.
Do we have any other questions from the board? So I'll bring it back to the board, whether or not we'll move forward with accepting this.
Yep, so move for approval. Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Zalek. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, that takes us to our county attorney, Mr. Minzer. You have several items today. You've been saving them up.
Madam Chair, so we have items 8A, 8B, and 8C are related to civil restitution liens, and because item 8C is kind of a global topic, that depending upon how you rule on that, it might automatically deal with 8A and 8B, but so I'm suggesting you might want to take up 8C first.
Well, I'll take that recommendation, and we'll take up 8C first, which is a request for consideration of discontinuance of imposition of civil restitution liens.
All right, so, Madam Chair, it seems from the input I get from various representatives from the court that Marion County has been unique in the imposition of these cost of incarceration liens compared to other counties. And Marion County's been imposing these liens through the court, I think since I've been here in 2010. Periodically, the board has asked me to give them a report regarding how much success we're having in actually collecting these liens. So the memo on this topic indicates that in the last year, we collected at the rate of about 2.37% of the liens that had been assessed. That equated to an amount of $97,627, but you could compare that to the total liens imposed that year of $4,122,000. So the rate of collection is very low. Some individuals in the court system have raised the concern that these liens are imposed based on the statute of a flat $50 a day per day of the sentence that you're sentenced to serve time in the jail. Sometimes some of these individuals don't even actually serve that whole time, but the assessment is made based on the original sentence, and that's the assessment you get. There's no consideration given to any economic differences between individual A, who might have some assets, versus individual B, who might be making $10,000 a year if doing that well. The assessment is the same for everybody. So ultimately, I come down to the amount of time that our staff has spent working on these liens. There's literally thousands of them every year. Last year, 2,960 cases, and those are at the county court level. If we go forward with this, the circuit court is about to commence imposition of liens, so there'll be even more of these coming down the pike. It's my opinion that when you consider the time that the judges are spending on signing each one of these orders, evaluating them and signing them, their judicial assistants, the time the clerk spends on these matters, and then my office, and then on occasions like today, we have individuals that want to come to the board and ask for either a total elimination of their lien, or if not, a reduction of the lien. So Dana in my office typically has been talking with these individuals and in effect trying to either kind of negotiate these or prepare an analysis for the board's consideration. It's my opinion that when you consider the value of the time of all those individuals to that $97,000, I think we're not making anything off of this, and we may end up being in the hole ultimately. Not to mention all the staff time and the court time that's spent to handle these liens. So my opinion is it's not a efficient use of county time from the judges all the way down the system. But I'm bringing that recommendation to you. If you all want us to keep doing this, we'll keep doing it. But that's my recommendation.
So, Mr. Renter, whenever we place the lien, at some point in time, they may pay or they may come because it's on their record. It does reflect on a credit bureau status that they owe Marion County these monies.
I
don't think so.
I don't know that these particular ones show up on your credit report.
I don't think so.
I don't think they do.
I'm just wondering,
Right,
you know,
yeah.
what's going to drive someone into pay other than they want to pay off their full debt to society, or if they're trying to get credit and it shows that they have an outstanding judgment.
Right. Well, you have that, and then you have the two cases today. So if someone has a piece of property that's involved in a real estate transaction, and that's a recorded
And that's
lien,
when we can, but if there's somebody who has no assets.
they have no assets, then
Madam Chair? I
Yes.
think our other one was, somebody was applying for a nursing position
Right,
and ACA, which does the background checks for nursing and medical field, wouldn't clear it. I believe that was one, and we went ahead and waived that one also, from my recollection.
yeah. So far, we haven't
Everybody's
had-
trying to improve themselves.
Right.
So.
Those that we see
Yeah.
are trying to improve themselves, though that we don't see is the 2.37, the ones that we are collecting because we have a collection process? And what is that collection process?
Oh, we're not actively involved in trying to collect these liens.
So, if that may be the answer, then should we consider getting an outside party to assist us in trying to collect versus they just have a bill for us?
If they're part of the sentence by the judge and there's other court costs, then non-payment, we do turn it over to a collection agency. And these liens are recorded in official records. That's how they're caught in relation to other researches and transactions. So they are, like I said, if it goes along with a criminal case, then that judgment, everything goes to a collection agency for collection.
At some point in time, then, it would go. And that's through the court system?
Yes, ma'am. And the other is what's needs to be said out of that 97,000 collected. Some of that could have been for cases several years ago. So there's no way to separate those payments of prior cases, whether it was all to the 2,900 for the last year. So, you know, it's a minimal amount. And it's whatever the board decides. Please know, though, that the court has discretion. This is kind of one of those things that historically I can tell you as clerk being here when it first started, it was an issue that got started because the sheriff, way back when, was talking about needing additional funds, and we had a county commissioner that was pretty adamant about, well, then let's make the users pay for it. And there was a statute that allows that opportunity, and so that's how this all got started. But the sheriff at that time said, I don't want the funds. I don't want them to come into my budget. It's your money to have, county commission, because you fund it. So the money's put in county commission's budget process. It's never been given to the sheriff to use in the jail. You have a substantial amount of individuals who never pay because they go away to prison or they're in jail. Our felony recovery of even court fines is very low because people, one, they don't have the jobs, two, they're in prison and serving time. But whatever the discretion for the board, as Mr. Mentor says, a judge still can, by law, if they so wish, create the lien themselves. They don't need your ordinance to do that and so forth. So.
Gotcha.
I just know from talking to one judge that judge indicated that if we're going to do it, he would do it for it's either everybody or nobody. He's not going to be trying to evaluate them on a case-by-case basis to decide whether he should impose a lien on this person and not on that one. So, and I would agree with that. If we're going to have these liens, they should be imposed across the board. And the statute just says if you're doing that, then it's the $50 a day rate for however many days you're in the county jail. So that's where the cost of incarceration. So all I'm talking about is the cost of incarceration liens. I'm not talking about court costs, which they
Right,
have to.
correct.
They do have to pay that separate from their. That's part of their sentence, actually. So.
I'll make the motion. Or do you want to discuss it?
I want to discuss it.
I need to ask. I'd
But
like
you
to
can
ask.
do whatever you want to do.
No, it's just, I just see the cost as being more, and there are some other avenues that if we want to, the sheriff might even pursue for law enforcement, which would be investigative costs. I know those are done in some cases also, that might get it, or we can just continue to do it the same way. I think it's kind of, when you're talking about the area that brought the question to me was, we can't really track, because if somebody's sentenced and we're charging them per day, is that correct, how they're doing it?
In the county.
Yeah, the
In the county
statute
jail,
provides
if it's a county, it's a misdemeanor offense. What if we might come to an auditing problem too, to make sure that those are the amount days, if somebody has to argue it, do we have it? Because they might be sentenced on one day, then not taken into custody or reprimanded into custody for a week later or something. I mean, there's a lot of variables to it that I don't think are quite answered.
Well, the order is based on the total amount of the sentence, irrespective
And
of how many
if they get game
days.
time in there, and I
Right.
mean, so, okay. All right, I see what you're saying. It's a sentence then.
Yeah.
So if they're sentenced for 180 days and they serve 90 days, they're still going to be charged 180 days at the $50 fee.
That's correct.
Okay.
The way the statute is written, yep.
Yeah, that was my question, is it really, if we're recovering jail costs, is that what it's for, to recover
Right, it's
jail
cost,
costs?
it's like your hotel bill, so to
Yeah,
speak.
they may not technically be in the jail
Right.
that period of time. But I don't want to keep talking and open us up to better ideas for somebody to look at either.
Commissioner Moore.
Quick question for our clerk. As Guy mentioned, that it may be costing us money, because taxpayers should not be subsidized in this program. About how long does it take your office per each one of these? Because there's thousands of them. How much time is it taking? Do you think is his assessment that maybe the amount we're receiving is less than the amount the program's actually costing us?
I have a collection division that's paid through the court. The
Right.
county doesn't pay for that. It pays through the state funding process of the court. I have two individuals in that do contract proposals.
Right.
What we do is we set people up for payment plans under the statute and collect those methods. The smile that it puts on my face is it could be a minimum of $5 a month statutorily. But to answer your question, it's all built into the process of having to collect the fees to begin with. So there's no really standard by which I can say it takes an hour, takes 5 hours a week.
Right.
It's all about the process.
Because my concern is if it's costing more than we're receiving, then
Well,
our
if you-
taxpayers are.
If you combine everybody, Commissioner, with, as the attorney said, between his staff time and everybody, it's a reasonable expectation that we may be losing money on it.
But Mr. Elserman, your team is going to continue to be assessing
absolutely.
court cost and everything. This is just one more fee that gets tacked on
Yeah.
to the filing. So the work time on your end is not going to change much.
Correct.
Okay. So then that brings it back to, if somebody giving your group the dollar value, or do you have to compute that yourself?
I don't understand.
So if somebody is determining how much is going to be assessed to this
That's
person.
announced in court.
It's announced in court, so someone is doing that in advance. And so, Mr. Mentor, who is compiling the dollar value that gets announced and provided to the judge to announce that in court?
It's the judge.
Yeah, the judge does
there's
that.
So
a
it's
plea-
on his staff then to look at how many, or how long the sentence is, number of days times $50, that gets added in.
Yeah, generally what happens during the sentencing is you got a plea agreement between the state attorney and the defense counsel. And there'll be a discussion of time sentenced, and the court clerk just captures that. He's to serve 180 days. It's added in automatically.
Okay.
Boom.
Okay. So again, the time then comes into preparing the documentation and getting everybody's signatures, but it's not necessarily in assessing the fee and getting it announced.
Correct.
Sometimes Gina in my office, who's Dana's legal assistant, she may have to have multiple phone calls back and forth with the clerk's office to get these orders prepared and then sent back for the judge's signatures. So again, that's 2,900 of those things that Gina is having to process just for the last year. And then the judge has to sign each one of these 2,900 orders, whoever that judge is.
So could there be a different process in place, though, that there could be a secure file? Once they've got that number, they could put it in the file, Gina can access that file and complete the paperwork versus multiple calls back and forth?
We could evaluate that. I don't know.
I'm just asking if it's the process that can be simplified to at least continue to help pay her salary with some of these dollars.
The statute's very, well, you are technically, they're getting returned back to your budget.
Right.
But
What fund does it go into?
whether or not you give it to the county attorney's one thing. Understand that what the county attorney has to engage in, one, we establish the lien by the order of the court. It's recorded and official records. So when it's satisfied, that's when they get engaged in having to file a satisfaction of the lien to take it back off the record. That's the time that's not paid for, and they're having to expose their staff time too.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner Bryant?
Okay, so this has been a topic of conversation since Commissioner Zalek and I
was
were
gonna say, you probably have
elected.
more
And I'm sure that,
invested in this.
previous commissioners, now representatives, Stone and McLean, participated in conversations about this very subject before we were even on the board. One thing that I don't see in the information that was presented to us is I'd like to know how the collections have gone. I'd like to see a historical year-to-year comparison of collections, because if I'm remembering correctly, they're going up a little bit.
No.
No, did they go down?
Yeah,
They
but
just
I'll
go back
give
and
it-
forth?
I'll provide
I'd like to see
You
that.
want 5 years?
Give me 5 years. I'm not going to be prepared to make any kind of a decision. For me, I'm not going to be prepared to move forward with discontinuing it today.
Motion to table?
Second.
Sure.
Do you have some additional,
I'll talk with Mr. Minter.
Okay. We've got a motion by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Gold, to table this item for a later date when additional details will be worked out. And Commissioner Bryant, you'll work on helping us put together some additional details for consideration at that point?
Sure.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. So that will take us then back to 8A, consideration of release for civil restitution lien against Jeffrey L. I'll allow Mr. Sutton here to give us his last name.
Mr. Callaway.
Callaway, forgive me, I'm so sorry, Larry.
It's easier
Larry
to-
Sutton
easier to
is my
say than-
dentist, Larry Callaway. My Larry's confused.
It's easier to pronounce than Franchini, so.
Franchini, thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. This firm assisted with the administration of the estate of Judith Sudman, who died in February of 2017 without a valid will. She was survived by her brother, Jeffrey Franchini, and a nephew, Andrew Howard, the son of a second brother, Andrew Franchini, who predeceased Judith. Judith's estate consisted of a residence located at 11610 Southeast 129th Lane in Ocklawaha, Jeffrey conveyed whatever interest he might have in the estate to Alicia Bruce as joint tenants with rights of survivorship, and died before Judith's estate was even administered. Alicia conveyed whatever interest she had to Andrew Howard, the nephew, as part of the administration of the estate. As a result, Andrew Howard ended up the sole beneficiary of Judith's estate. The above-referenced civil restitution lien against Jeff Franchini was discovered after Judith's estate was closed. We're requesting that it be released as to this property. Jeffrey's only interest in the property was as a beneficiary of Judith's estate, and he died before the estate was even administered. The lien now clouds title to Jeffrey's nephew, Andrew, who did nothing wrong. He was not the worst person incarcerated. He was not the one who caused the charges to be incurred by the county. We would therefore ask respectfully that the lien be released as to this property, so that the nephew can have clear title.
Unless there's discussion, I'll make a motion to release it.
Second.
Go ahead.
Okay,
So for discussion, we've got a motion by Commissioner Gold to release, second by Commissioner Moore, and now discussion.
okay, so this has been, the current owner of the property, I'm guessing, is selling the property? Mr. Callaway?
He's not selling it at this time. He's just trying to clear his title.
He's inheriting it.
He inherited it, yes. Indirectly through the estate, yes.
Okay. And originally,
The
the
other
property
inheritors.
belonged to
Judith
Ms.
Sudman,
Sudman,
who is not the person incarcerated,
who was Mr. Franchini's brother.
who was
She
Mr.
was survived.
Franchini's sister.
Sister, sorry. She was survived by Mr. Franchini.
For a brief time, but he died before
That-
her estate was administered.
Okay, but he still was her, he was survived.
He was an heir.
He was
Was
his,
one of
he
the
was
heirs,
one of
yes.
her heirs.
Over the years.
Okay, he had conveyed his interest to Alice Bruce. Was Alice Bruce his significant other?
Just, Alicia Bruce, I'm sorry, was actually married to someone else, so it got a little complicated.
Well, she was his significant other. Okay.
Okay.
And then Mr. Franchini, and this all happened earlier. He was arrested in 2013 for DUI. Then he was arrested. It was his second offense. He was sentenced, and then he was violated probation, went back into jail. The estate was closed, and now how is the gentleman that is now inheriting the property related?
Andrew Howard is Jeffrey Franchini's nephew.
Okay.
There were two brothers who were the brothers of Judith Sudman, Andrew and Jeffrey. Andrew predeceased Judith, survived by Andrew Howard, but Jeffrey Franchini survived Judith, but died shortly after Judith did.
Okay, so say that one more time for me. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Our Mr.
Judith Sudman had two brothers,
Okay.
Andrew Franchini and Jeffrey Franchini.
Okay.
Andrew Franchini predeceased Judith,
Okay.
leaving a son, Andrew Howard.
Okay.
Jeffrey Franchini survived Judith, but died shortly after Judith, but before her estate was administered. So he really had no benefit of this property, but his civil restitution lien creates a lien on the property that went to the nephew.
He hadn't gone through the process.
He was an
That's
heir,
what it
though.
is. Yeah,
He was an heir.
He was the other half of the interest.
They died before the.
How much is the property worth?
That's what's gonna be my next
Off the
question.
top of my head, I don't know, sir.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna look that up real
Yeah, we
quick.
need to know what it's worth.
You need the address.
But I think the critical thing is that Andrew did nothing wrong and did not create the
Yeah, but he
problem.
also has inherited a piece of property that has some worth to it, some value to it.
Understood.
And there is a restitution lien out there that's owed to this county, to the citizens of this county who were the ones that,
Housed him.
yeah, housed him while he was
But but
Not him.
Andrew became an
Completely
heir
separate.
as an heir of
Uncle.
Judith Sudman, not as an heir of Jeffrey Franchini.
But Franchini is an heir to that property,
Right.
and that property should pay his debt to society if it can.
Understood.
Okay, so it's actually showing
That's why the lien,
now,
that's why the lien is there.
who's Madeline Batson?
What?
11610 Southeast 129th, oh wait, that's place. Sorry, Lane.
Okay.
I was like, it's not even in his name. All right, there we go.
And while you're looking that up, Madam Chair.
Yes.
The person who's going for it now, he would have to pay that debt off prior to being able to establish for the probate. Is that correct?
No, it's
No,
already in his name.
he is the owner of the property now.
It'll just have a lien on it.
But
Yeah.
before he can do
But he
anything
can't
with
sell
the
it.
property, he has
Sell it
to.
or anything without
correct.
paying that off?
Yes.
Okay.
So, I mean, while I understand that he wasn't the person that went to jail, there's still a lien out there, and this is one of the avenues that we have to collect these monies, and so this commissioner's not gonna be in favor
What was
of
the,
releasing
what is
that
the,
lien.
what is the rate?
Motion, I think, in a second.
It's $50 a day.
I don't know, what's
Is that-
the property?
The
The
dollar,
property's got a taxable value of $62,000.
Oh, okay.
So, which means it's probably got a market value depending on the, let's see, it is, I mean, it's a concrete block house that was built in 1990. Depending on the condition here says fair. It's in today's real estate market, it's probably worth, and I'll go low, at least $80,000.
did you have something, Commissioner Golden?
No, keep my motion if it gets denied.
Okay.
It just-
Okay, so are we ready to call the
Let me
vote?
just make a, and with this, the reason why I'm supporting it is because that gentleman passed away before it went through probate, so I really think it shouldn't cloud the title, in my opinion, so that's why I'm keeping my second.
Okay, so we got a motion by Commissioner Gold, second by Commissioner Moore, to approve waiving this. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
That motion fails, with Commissioner Gold and Moore approving, Commissioners Bryant, Stone, and Valak dissenting. So
I'll make a
will stay.
motion to deny.
You don't need to make a motion. It's
It-
done.
it failed.
just failed, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Callaway.
Sorry, Mr. Callaway.
Next, Mr. Mentor, we have a request consideration for release of civil restitution lien against Stephen Matthew Shear.
Am I here?
I don't see anyone. This raises, 8B raises similar issues as the one you just dealt with.
Yeah, but this
So we've
one's
read
not
the
so-
history on it. If, by reading the history, do you want to go through the history or count on it?
Because this one is different. This is not where somebody passed away while it was in probate. To me, this is totally different. I would agree with assessing the full thing. You know.
I'll balance it out and make the motion.
Wait a minute, wait. You-
Oh, well,
you want-
what I was trying to say is
So-
that you have a piece of property worth $62,000 here. So, I mean, if we need to correct the actual value of the lien, that's one thing. I can understand that. But
So, for the record, this is a situation, he was arrested for retail petty theft, second-degree misdemeanor. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
16 days, credited for time served. So, I'm just looking at this, the official records, it appears to be an error and should have only been for $800, but he still owes the $406.80.
that's court costs. So
Okay.
one is court cost and the other one is the cost of incarceration lien.
All right, so Mr. Stone is requesting the release, but his property has a contract on it for $124,900. When the sale closes, or
net.
Mr. Shear will net $42,358. While I understand their plight after reading the letter, again, we have another instance where he has the ability to pay this lien.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, I would make a motion to deny releasing the lien.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We've got a motion to deny by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Moore. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any,
Go ahead.
I'm about to finalize this.
Just for us to make sure that the amounts are correct.
All right, so we'll double check, and if it should be $800 instead of $900, then we'll make
Correct
that
that.
correction.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So all in favor of denying the request?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Okay. That's going to take us to 8D.
Okay, let's see.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. 8E.
Okay, Madam Chair, this is an item that Russell back in the back has worked on in our office, but we basically have a situation that some might call a scofflaw. We've had numerous code enforcement liens posed against this property. There's junk in the property. They're operating a business in a zone not properly zoned for that business. They've accumulated thousands of dollars of code enforcement liens, but they're not actually doing what the code enforcement process is designed to do, and that is simply to get people to comply.
Mm-hmm.
So that's obviously is not working, and Russell's memo is asking for authorization for us to file a lawsuit.
Move to file.
We've got a motion to file by Commissioner Zalek,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bryant. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously.
All right, Madam Chair, that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, you sure?
I could think of some.
He's quiet for several meetings and bam.
Boom. Okay, Mr. Boyonis.
Good morning, Commissioners. And before we start with
Bill.
9A1, I would like, as the chairman mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, Andrew Russell lost his father suddenly on Friday evening. Also, in the early morning of Saturday morning, we have a fire incident, and one of our firefighters is in the hospital. Had a surgery yesterday morning. It went very successfully. Please keep those two families in your prayers, and they need all the support we can provide to them. With that said, we will go with item 9A1, and Julie Sieg will give us an update on the library system.
Thank you. Good morning, Ms. Sieg.
Good morning, almost afternoon. Julie Sieg, Library Director. I'm here today to provide an update to the Administrative Strategic Plan, Empowering Marion for Success. The library had two elements within the county services section of the plan, and we selected the two elements because they would not incur additional costs. They are enhancing customer service and reviewing the policy on grant applications. As reported by Mike McCain this year, the county implemented an administrative policy in 2017 titled Grant Administration. Within the parameters of this AP, the library has had 2 successful grants and currently has 1 grant application pending. Last year, the library implemented a Progress Denellen grant, which was funded by a private foundation and administered by United Way. The aim of Progress Denellen has been to raise the standard of living for Denellen area residents through education and job skills development. The library has partnered with CareerSource, Marion Technical College, United Way, and Early Learning Coalition to fulfill our role in this initiative. This year, the library worked with the Friends of the Fort McCoy Library and to submit a grant to the Clay Electric Foundation. The Clay Electric grant is allowing for the installation of audiovisual equipment in the auditorium to make the space more functional for both library and community use. The grant we have pending is a Library Services and Technology Act grant, which would enable the library to install digital signage in the lobby of each of our library locations. The display units will share library programs, events, messages, and highlight library services, as well as what is happening in our library meeting rooms. The monitors will also highlight county messages and initiatives such as Marion County Day, recycling, and safety awareness. If successful, we should be bringing the grant to the board for approval this summer. And as far as customer service is concerned, we are continuously seeking to enhance the customer service experience for our patrons. To this end, a library employee committee was formed to explore ways we can more fully develop a culture of excellent customer service throughout our library system. The committee has developed customer service standards, which I'll pass out in a minute, and is now undertaking the development of employee competencies in conjunction with another staff committee, the Library Staff Development Committee. However, right now, as a snapshot in time, county departments are currently conducting customer satisfaction surveys through the end of April. Surveys can be completed either electronically or in hard copy. And while we are in the midst of the survey, so far I can say the library has received a stack of hard copies about this high. Not only have numerous surveys been completed, but the vast majority of the respondents have chosen to include comments. I've tried to pull several to share and have broken them down into themes, and I'll go through them quickly. But one thing I can't convey is the number of exclamation points that were used by...
Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point.
That's too much. So folks see the library as a community resource and had this to say: Reddick Public Library is an exceptional community treasure. 3 exclamation points. Wonderful asset to the community. More than a library, a wonderful resource for the northern part of Marion County. Great people, lots of fun things to do for children and adults. I think of my library as that big building that stores all my books. Thank you for a great community service. Folks from other areas had this to say about our libraries. I'm a snowbird, and when I go home, the thing I miss most is this library and staff. Sumter Library is closer to my home, but Marion Library has a much better selection of books. Love the staff, so responsive, humorous, fun to be with, caring, attempting to meet the needs of the community. Highlight of my winter here is participating in library programs. We love this library. We're a homeschool family. We tell anyone who will listen they need to go to this library. We drive from Citrus County to come here. We recently moved to Florida. The Reddick staff has made us feel at home. I came from an area where I had access to 4 county libraries, so I was concerned that I would not have the quality of service when I moved here. I am very pleased with Freedom Public Library. I am especially happy with Ask Arnold because I'm a senior and I need a lot of help with techie stuff. Thank you for having this service available. Have lived in many cities, towns, and find our library here to be at the top of every list I know of. Very helpful, friendly, and quick to answer questions. Great library. Wish we had one like yours in Connecticut. We're snowbirds, but we visit January through May at least once a week, and we use the computers also. We love the Bellevue Library. The librarians are very helpful, friendly, and knowledgeable. The person who sets up the monthly books and decorations is very clever and creative. The children's library is fabulous. Suggestion: more DVDs with up-to-date movies. So there were some suggestions. Those suggestions revolve around library materials and library space. Westerns, large print books, AV. Customer satisfaction, however, is about more than just books. I appreciate the library staff very much and their knowledge in helping me with what I need done. Also, for the special population that comes in, the staff is awesome. Thank you. My husband has macular degeneration and hearing loss. This keeps him going. We love the movies because of the wheelchair access. like computer availability, since I'm a senior citizen and do not have a home computer. And I'm not sure how this person uses the library, but they had this to say. Very good library, recommend to anyone, 9.5 out of 10. If I like to read, I would have put 10 out of 10. That made us all laugh. Great storytime activities fills our need for child interaction. We came for Unplugged Game Day, and we loved it. The kids had a very good time. I highly recommend doing this again. Not only did the kids have fun, but I did as well. A good family quality time spent together. My granddaughter loves the story time as well as special events. Her social skills have improved, and she is looking forward to starting VPK in August. Great programs and staff. And I have 2 solid pages that I pulled just of comments about staff. Professional, friendly, helpful, thoughtful, outstanding customer service, set pleasant tone for environment, informative in every area. And this is from O'Neill, very kind-spirited and humble, someone said, so I like that. Always professional, polite, and respectful, and very helpful. So I could go on, but I wanted to share the good news because you're not likely to read a stack of surveys like this, but it's been a very great experience, and staff have very much enjoyed reading those. So,
How long was your survey period, Julie?
it is still going on until the end of April, and it started the beginning of February, but we probably started like week 2.
Okay,
So.
that's great. Well, again, we recognize some longevity from your staff members over time as well, and I'm sure that is
And Doris, who was recognized today, was from our Fort McCoy branch.
awesome. Well, thank you. Mr. Boyanis, do you want to add anything on this?
Thank you, Julie, very much.
Ms. C, your leadership speaks volumes for the service that gets provided to our excuse me, our citizens that use the public library. We have online access as well for our materials, and I don't want to leave that out as just based on the availability that people have to use our public library. We are right there in today's environment as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you again for your leadership. Please take that back to all of your team. And yes. Well, thank you. Thank you to our Public Library Systems team. We appreciate you and everything that you do every single day.
Thank you, Commissioners. Next item, item 9B. I would like to present to you a letter we received from Fort King Heritage Association requesting funding and partnership with the City of Ocala and the Heritage Association to acquire the 2 parcels as shown on the map we left in front of you today. Also, an appraisal has been done for this acquisition. The appraisal will be provided to the clerk, so it will become part of the public record. I'm presenting this letter to you for direction and guidance on where do you want me to go with this.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Bryant.
I mean, of course, we want to be as supportive of as we can, and, you know, we were able to do the original fort with some TDC funding that we were able to come up with. I would like to have our county administrator look to see if that would be the appropriate funding source.
Great.
And if so, you know, support this endeavor.
Okay.
I'd just like to say that, because I am one of the trustees, so if I'm not allowed to vote, I need the attorney to tell me, but I think I'm allowed to vote. I'm just being trustee, yeah, okay. But this is a key piece to putting that entire property together. So 100% support, and then using bed tax money is even better, getting our visitors to pay for it. But yes, I'm 100% support, so I'll make a motion to approve.
Well, approve what,
The 100,000.
You sending it to
Well-
the,
Yeah, sending it to the, and then they'll bring it back to us and
TDC
we'll.
board.
I think we just need consensus on
Oh, we
that.
need consensus and not a
Okay.
motion?
needs direction.
Direction.
I had conversation with the VCB staff. They believe this fits the mission of the TDC, and
Does.
they would be more than happy to work on it and take it to the TDC board.
So I'm definitely willing to see what happens, but.
All right.
Although when they asked us last time, y'all did say, hey, we just need this one, we'll never ask you for money again, right?
No, I
No.
heard them say we won't make that commitment.
Correct. They said they won't make that commitment. And this is
As-
definitely,
As the member on the board, so it would be the board's direction to, if it comes up there, that we would like to have it come from the TDC.
correct.
Thank
I'd
you,
rather-
Commissioner Gold, for carrying that message.
Is that true, Commissioner Zalek? Just making sure.
Well, no, the TDC board was I think clear, but I think the county commission has a little more.
We are the final say.
Yeah, we have a little more latitude. So, yes, I agree.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
okay.
Item 9C, I would like to have Mike McCain give you an update on all our FEMA projects and where they are on in the process. And with that, there is a proposed agreement with the state, I believe for the first 6 projects to be approved, so we can start seeing reimbursement happening very soon.
Very good. Hello, Mr. McCain.
Hi, how are y'all doing?
Great.
Mike McCain, Fiscal Manager. So I just wanted to update you real quick. Now seems like the right time to talk about FEMA. From the Irma hurricane, we had 22 projects that we submitted to FEMA. At this point, 19 of those, the scopes have been approved. The eligible amounts with the reimbursement amounts have been, we've agreed upon those, and they've been sent to the state. 6 of those are on, well, we have the main contract that had 1 project, and then we have some amendments coming after that. And so we'll have those to sign, get back to the state. The small projects, which are defined by $123,000 or less, we're expecting probably about a 4-week turnaround from the time we sign it, send it back to the state, for us to start seeing money. Any project that's a large project, so that's over $123,000, I think there's another several steps that take place at the state to make sure that they're in agreement with the findings from FEMA. Of the 19 projects that are sitting with the state, the eligible amount of the projects is about $25 million, and currently the way they're structured, we're going to get reimbursed about 90% of that. So it's working well. I mean, it's a little slow, but it's working well. Still has some hurdles to jump yet, especially with the big projects. So included in the 19 at the state are the debris projects. There's 6 debris projects, which makes up, it's like out of the 25 million cost, it's almost 24 million of it is the debris. So the debris, those 6 projects really are the big projects. And so those are with the state. I'm not sure when we'll see them. I think we're going to see the first phase, which is a pretty small one. I think that may have come in actually even today, but the big ones, I would imagine, they're going to take a while to grind through.
Mr. McCain, is there a timeline, though, that they typically will have gone through that and given us approval by 36 months, 24 months?
Yeah, I don't think they've, so the real timeline that they give us is you get 6 months to pick up the debris, and then you have 18 months.
I'm talking about on their side to
No,
approve
there
it.
is no real timeline. The 4 weeks that I gave you on the small projects is more just a typical, it's not a commitment.
Mm-hmm.
But they do mention that on the large projects, there's another 12 steps to go through, whatever a step takes. So we'll see what and again, our big projects at this point, we have one is the school board sheltering, which hopefully that'll be coming to you very shortly. The other ones are is the debris. Those are the large projects.
Okay.
And those have been approved at the FEMA level.
Right.
Okay.
So
They're sitting with the state at this point, going through whatever preliminary reviews take place before they come to us for the signature.
Okay. Commissioner Zalek?
So we move we use solid waste money.
Right.
To move that. It'll probably come back with a gap of about 10%.
That's right.
10, 11%, something like that. So, Ms. Clark, what last time when we did that, we'll have a gap between, what we took out of the solid waste fund and what's there. Last time that was just allowed to be absorbed by solid waste, correct?
If it could be related to the cleanup.
Because it's part of cleanup, right?
Cleanups. Yes, but
The only part that's not going to be is the sheltering piece. So what happens?
That's where we're going to need to possibly consider, or at least have a meeting about reimbursement to the landfill.
To that fund.
Yes.
The sheltering piece, it looks like at this point, they are going to approve the 100%
That's
of
right.
that
So-
cost.
So if they approve
Hopefully
100%,
that's
then
gonna
we're in
be a
good shape.
pass-through.
I was writing an email as this discussion started to Mr. Gary to have a meeting with him to meet with county staff.
It's a
to
good idea to
find
be
out
prepared for
what-
that.
We'll find out what we're talking about in relation to that 10%.
Okay.
Because you're gonna need to make that at least a finding that there's a relationship of spending that money in relation to the hurricane.
Sure, sure. Well, it's easy to do on the debris side. It can be more complicated on some of the smaller projects, right?
The smaller projects, they have been funded by the specific department who is in charge of that type of project.
Okay.
And so the 10% will be absorbed by that fund.
By that
from
fund.
that department.
Okay.
That's what I was looking for.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
And you'll see that on the agenda item, you'll see this is the funds that they'll go into, and it even says Fund 1 in the future, if there's multiple funds that funded a particular project, we're going to show you the different amounts, depending on how much the expenditures were.
Do we have any other questions or comments for Mr. McCain or Mr. Boyer on this? So if that be the case, then we're going to look for a motion to approve the federally funded subaward and grant agreements and amendments 1 through 3.
So moved.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Zalek. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries unanimously.
Commissioner, before I conclude, I would like to suggest something, if you would allow me, regarding public comments.
Please.
We have 2 sections of public comments. And if you look at the agenda today, Section 2 was loaded. And in many instances, those public comments were not related to anything on the agenda. We have discussed this in the past. If you would allow me to explore that for the next couple meetings, that we reserve Section 2 to be for public comments related to specific items on the agenda. And then any general public comments, we will move them to Section 12C, which would be at the end of the meeting. And that the public will have the opportunity to speak about anything they wanted to discuss. This way, at least people with items on the agenda, we can get their business done and they can go back to their work, go back to their business. And then at the end of the meeting, you can talk in general about anything the people wanted to talk about.
Well, I can say, Mr. Callaway makes his living on billable hours, and he waited approximately 3 to have his turn at the lectern this morning. As did those, yes. So I can support that.
Right, I agree.
I don't know, what would it have changed about the Fort King people?
Well, they had to wait.
They had to wait, they're
The
taken away
time-
from their jobs.
The time for public comment would have been pushed to the backside of this meeting that didn't pertain to the agenda. So our agenda items would have moved forward.
Right.
And they could have expedited some of these items, so.
You can accomplish this way the agenda items early, quickly in the morning. And if any people have comments on those agenda items, they will have the opportunity.
Yeah, and then other business we can address at the end
Right.
of our meeting.
Yes. Okay.
I need consensus, and we will try it for a couple weeks and see how it works.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Thank you. That's all what I have.
Thank you. Mr. Elsperman, back on committee items. We have several of those.
10A is yours.
So 10A, planning and zoning.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Moore. Any further discussion?
Also send the appropriate letter.
Of course. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously.
10B is Board of Adjustments, and the 2 individuals listed, Kenneth Serrera and Douglas Sherwood, received the appropriate votes for 1 full term ending April 2022.
So moved. Second.
First by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Moore. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously.
Move
10C is
10C.
yours.
Second.
Got a motion by Commissioner Bryant, for 10C, second by Commissioner Moore. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously.
10D is Code Enforcement Board, and John Townsend received the appropriate.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Moore. All in favor for Mr. Townsend?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously.
I'll also move Mr. Damon for 10E and Mr. Strom for 10F.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Moore. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously.
And I'll also move 11A through 11D as presented
Second.
unless someone has a conflict.
Second, so all in favor.
I'm just pausing to see if anybody has a conflict. Okay. So motion by Commissioner Bryant, second by Commissioner Moore for 11A through 11D. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. All right. That should take us, we've got all our notation for action, commissioner items, commissioner comments. We'll start with Commissioner Bryant.
Oh,
If you like,
yay. I really don't have a whole lot today. I don't think I do anyway. If I'm forgetting something, let me know.
Circle back.
Circle back, but no. One thing I will just say is I want to thank all of our staff. Monier, you're doing a great job. Mr. Mentor, great job. All of our constitutional officers, great job. I get asked almost daily, so what's new with the county? What's happening with the county? And, from 4 to 5 meetings yesterday, going into a variety of different topics with different departments. If people only knew all of the things that are going on with the county, they just wouldn't believe it. While it might not be announcing some big project that's happening, it's just keeping the wheels turning and all of the positive things that are happening. And they're all made possible by all of the different entities that work together, from the commission, from the Board of County Commissioners, administrator, then all of our staff, from directors to frontline staff, and then the relationships that we have with our constitutional officers. That's what makes Marion County such a great place. And unless you work in it, and unless you see it, unless you talk with people from other counties, you don't realize what a jewel we have here. And it doesn't work like this everywhere else. So we're just so blessed, and I'm just so thankful and grateful that I get to work every day along such a great team. So that's it. Just thank you all, and my fellow commissioners, just everyone for what you do.
That is just so well said, so great, thank you. Commissioner Gold.
All right. Start off, Julie, good presentation. That was good. I know the grandbaby loves the library. There's so many extra things there that we don't see. I saw somewhere, was it a letter to the editor with Monier at the 175th where you took somebody to the
golf cart,
to their car with a golf cart.
I was enjoying the golf cart.
So he was hiding on the golf cart, but it worked out
Commissioner
good.
Gold, I will say I made sure that went in his personnel file.
Good. Always a good thing on there. And Susan, I met one of your employees, and they spoke very highly of you and everything. I got to spend a couple hours with her last Friday, and it was very nice just hearing employees that knows that and then recognize me sometimes, because I get that kind of drop in the stomach when somebody goes, "Hey, Commissioner," and I'm sitting there with a ball cap and trying to hide, and I'm like, oh gosh. So, but talk very highly about you. Finally, Nick, I think this is your last meeting with us, isn't it? So I commend you for the progression you brought us, and it would have been nice to see what you could have brought us in the future, and I appreciate everything that you've done for us. I've enjoyed the time here, and I really don't like Savannah, but if I'm there, I'm probably the only person that doesn't. But if I'm up at, I think it's Fort Stewart, I'll come by and see you there at some point. But good luck in the future. You're going to be missed, because you've done an excellent job with a lot of things here for all of us. And I think that's about it. Just remember the dangers that all of our employees put anywhere when they're out on the road directing traffic to anything they do, especially with our firefighters. Some of our officers' position, our leadership positions, we don't always realize that, you know, our captains, our chiefs and everything like that, they're still firefighters, and that we were very, without getting into everything on the details of Michael, we're very lucky to have him. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Gold. Commissioner Zalek?
So many great points already brought up, but yeah, please just continue to, I know it's been said once or twice, but remember to pray for Angel and his family, and also for the lieutenant and their family. And I think 400 and something firefighters fighting the Notre Dame Cathedral fire in Paris. And so, you know, there's lots of things going around our world, and we're grateful to live in this fantastic place, but don't forget to pray for those that are in the middle of the storm. With that,
Amen.
I'll turn it back to you.
Amen. Commissioner Moore?
Well, I was informed before this commission meeting that last commission meeting, something that should have been in my comments, I forgot to do. So, one of my fire advisory board, Daniel Kaufman, he went out to Gilmer, be the fire chief of Gilmer County or Gilmer City. So he promoted out, so he's now a fire chief. So I was going to put Joe Reichel on and take Daniel Kaufman off and thank Daniel Kaufman for his service.
So moved.
I apologize for failing to do that last time. Okay.
Second.
We've got a motion by Commissioner Zalek, second by Commissioner Bryant, and that's for Joe Reichel
to come out, to
okay.
replace Daniel Kaufman and send a
In the
thank you
fire.
letter to Daniel Kaufman.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously.
And then the next thing I just want to bring up for our idea with federal things that we do is recently I was at Sonny's. They had a medical emergency. I pick up my cell phone, dial 911, and the call doesn't go through. We did some research. My cell phone carrier, which by the way is being gone, I'm switching cell phone carriers over this.
Who
but
was your carrier?
Boost Mobile.
Boost?
Yeah,
Boost?
Boost is going to be gone after this because they dropped the call on a 911 call. Thank goodness that one of the restaurant employees got through on their cell phone, which was Verizon. Anyway, just saying. But Boost is now going to be, I'm nixing Boost as we're speaking. So anyway, but anyway,
I hope they don't come after you.
what's Boost going to do to me? They dropped the call on a 911. How much worse service can you get? Anyway.
Can I say something?
Yes.
The moral of the story, not every dropped call is the mistake of the 911 officer.
Right, but the bigger picture is we need to, since they were saying that with the cell phone, I was checking around, this is a national issue in FCC. We need to see what, if any, pressure we can place on the FCC to get this nationwide issue corrected, because it, from what I understand, it's a lot of cell phone carriers, but just happened to be with Boost. But if we can do something from the county level, if I don't know what we can do, if we can send a letter, what pressure we can apply, or if they'll even listen to us, but something, we do need to get this corrected, because it's more than just a city issue, more than a county issue. We need to get it corrected across the country, so.
We can go back to landlines, get rid of our cell phones.
Actually, that was mentioned, 1/3 of all calls into the 911 is landlines, and they don't have that issue. That was mentioned to me by somebody. But, and the other thing I'd like to thank is our 911, our first responders, because our first responders in like that case, they were there within less than 2 minutes after the other call went through. They were there within 2 minutes. I mean, phenomenal response times, really great time. And Ocala Fire Rescue and Marion County Fire Rescue both showed up, and they worked together in tandem. I mean, did a phenomenal job. So thank you to all of our first responders, and also thank you to all Marion County staff every day that does so much for Marion County and make sure that Marion County is great. And thank you.
You got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, I will be brief, but I will say that we had a great trip with Lex Quest, and for the sake of time, I'll just save some of those comments for our next meeting. But we really did get a chance to visit, get some good detail from them, and so more to come. This afternoon, Marion County is going to be honoring a wonderful young lady. She is a Special Olympian, Renee Pfeiffer. She won gold in 3 events at the Special Olympics World Games in Dubai. And this afternoon from 4 to 6 at the CEP, she will be honored for that. Again, from 4 to 6, if perhaps we can show up and just show her how much we appreciate her representing us in this area. Earlier today, we approved a wonderful transaction, and I'm going to give a shout out to the hospital district for how they are tackling providing a continuum of care for mental health and substance abuse. And I believe we're going to see great things on the Martin Luther King property, that they are going to be responsible for helping administer and bring together many people that are going to impact our community. As a reminder, the National Day of Prayer will be from 8 to 8 on the downtown Ocala Square, and that date is May the 2nd. And again, May is watch out for motorcycles. There'll be many more on the roadways during the month of May. So again, watch for those. I'm now going to open it up for any additional public comment. If there's no one here with additional public comment, it looks like we have one person that'll be coming to the lectern. If we have anyone else with additional public comment, I'll ask that you please come forward now and come to the second location. Yes, ma'am.
Dale Kreitzer, 259 Marion Oaks Lane, Ocala, Florida. First, thank you. I hear you're going to pave Marion Oaks Lane, and of course, I live on that road, so thank you. But second, in regards to your public comments, changing the procedure, I understand that at the beginning of the meeting, you're going to have it based on your agenda. But how do you sign up for 5 minutes to talk when the agenda only comes out the Friday before?
That we're going to work with the details on that. I think you'll still get to sign up for your time, but it won't be at the beginning of the meeting unless it pertains to an agenda item.
So there'll be like more time to know what's on the agenda?
Well, no, it'll still be published. So we'll work out the details.
The only thing that's changing is during public comment, if you are coming to speak just on general items and you don't have anything to do with the agenda,
Right.
your 5 minutes will be at the end of the meeting.
Right.
Not at
But
the
that's not
beginning.
her point, though, Commissioner.
Her point is she's not going to see the agenda to know
Till
what we're
Friday,
addressing.
and you
Sign
have
up
to
for
sign
5
up a week
minutes.
before.
You have to sign up for 5 minutes before the agenda is actually published.
Well,
Right.
but if it is I'm thinking if it's an item on the agenda, you'll move to the front versus the end. So
you won't have
all you
5
have to do
minutes.
is
No, I
give
get
your
what you're saying.
topic.
Yeah, I think she makes a good
Yeah.
point.
She makes
Well,
a
but
good
if
It's a
point.
really good point.
Yeah.
Is our agenda opening for the sign up for 5 minutes almost should extend
no,
past when the agenda is published, because how would you know what's on the agenda if you need more time?
Exactly.
Right.
you'll
I don't
be
know what's on the
notified.
agenda till Friday, but you
Look
have
out
to
the
sign up a whole week before
you.
to be on to speak for 5
Okay,
minutes.
thank you. Those details will be
How do we
worked
do
out.
it now?
You have to
Now
sign
they
up.
sign up before the Friday
We
before,
put
I believe.
everybody in at the beginning.
Before the agenda's
Before there
published.
is an agenda.
Right, before
Right.
it's published, so they don't even know.
So
So that,
But we'll move them to the front if their item
you're
is
speaking
on
about
the
an item on
agenda.
agenda.
So,
But will you get 5 minutes?
of course,
Yeah.
Oh.
if you're signed up.
Well,
for
how
an
can you
item on
sign
the
up if you don't know what's on the agenda?
You
If
just have to
you're
sign up
gonna
ahead of time.
sign up,
Just sign up.
you just sign up.
Sign up every time.
Sign up every time.
Sign up every time.
Okay.
I mean, that's,
They
we
sign
make it
up
hard
now-
to do that.
No,
They
we're
si-
not.
They sign up now without knowing what's on the agenda.
Exactly, so just sign
So
up.
nothing changes. You
Nothing
just sign
changed.
up if you want to address the board. If
5
your
minutes.
item is on the agenda, you'll be
Move
placed
up.
in the front, but if you're not, you'll be placed at the end of the meeting.
And you'll just need to
That's
call
all.
back and find out.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Or look at the agenda when it's published.
I'm sure we'll notify people. Mr. Muniz?
Henry Munoz, 495 Marion Oaks Boulevard. I'm going to look forward to seeing this experiment on the agenda thing. It's because in the past, I was able to start looking at the agenda on Wednesday evening, but now it's done back to Friday.
No, it may still be available by Wednesday, but we guarantee it by Friday.
Guarantee it by Friday, okay.
Yes, sir. That's all.
So that would help. And I still want to thank the road department for what they've done in Marion Oaks. I want to thank for the help of the MSTU department in Marion Oaks also.
Pick the ones that
And I
sell.
just, wish you guys have a good lunch, and I'll see you later.
Well, and I think Commissioner Zalek had a great comment right there. You're welcome to say it again.
Oh, thank the 1 cent sales tax for your roads.
So for the citizens of
Oh,
Marion
yes.
County who voted that 1 cent sales tax to allow us to do that paving.
Right.
There goes Tracy at work.
And I remember the first day I saw the sign, she put it up. I said, "That sign looks beautiful, Tracy." I want to see the road, not the sign.
There you go, Mr. Munoz.
Excellent.
She's delivering.
So, Commissioners, we are going to immediately leave these chambers for a closed meeting for a notice of claim that we received on behalf of an estate. So we are not adjourned or in recess yet. We're going to go to conference room A. Does anybody know?
We're going to Monier's office.
We're going to go to Monier's office, Mr. Boyonis, and once we have concluded that, we will come back in here and recess. So you're welcome to stay and wait for us. If not, we'll see you this afternoon, if you'll be back with us at 2.